Story 1. Wife's abused friend moved in with us and walked in on me changing. Now she's becoming uncomfortably close. Like she started kissing my cheek to say thanks, and my wife says it's fine. Hello everyone. I, 33M, have been married to my wife, 31F, for 6 years, and we have a 3-year-old kid. We are very happy together, and I am lucky to be married to a very kind and smart woman. My wife's best friend, Anna, fake name for anonymity, has been living with us for the last 6 months. I wanted to talk about Anna to give a full context of why I am making my decision. Anna is my wife's best friend since school days. Anna was living in the city with her boyfriend, and we live in the suburbs of that city. They seemed happy together and were in a relationship for 2 years. However, my wife noticed bruises on Anna's hand last year and asked her about it. Initially, Anna dismissed it as work-related injuries. My wife kept on probing, and we learned that Anna was in an extremely toxic and abusive relationship. Her boyfriend lost his job last year and became extremely controlling and abusive towards her. He constantly accused her of cheating, Anna denies it, made her link her phone messenger to his computer, and started micromanaging finances. There was an incident of domestic violence that was the final straw. My wife and I had to rush to the hospital to look after Anna. Since Anna's parents are mostly absent from her life, my wife asked me if Anna could stay with us for a few days. We are 3 people living in a 4-bedroom house and have 2 spare guest rooms. I, of course, agreed to it and told her that Anna can stay with us as long as she wants. I think the incident completely broke Anna, and she would just start crying randomly and completely shut down. It was really sad to see Anna in that state. She had to leave her job due to mental issues and stayed at home in her room all day. My wife is very kind and took care of Anna like she was family and made sure she felt loved. Anna is also thankful to my wife and me for helping her in her worst time, and helps around the house and with our kid, though we never leave him alone with Anna. Anna is now coming back to normal, smiles sometimes, and has started looking for a job again. Now on to the incident. Last Friday, my wife and I went to work as normal and dropped our son at daycare. I had a doctor's appointment at noon and came straight home from there as I did not have a lot of work in the office. I made some lunch and then went to my room to sit in my bed and reply to all the emails. Anna was in her room, and I did not talk to her after I came home. Around 2 p.m., I heard Anna's room door open and her walking in the hallway. Suddenly, our bedroom door opened, and Anna walked in, topless and just in her underwear. I was shocked and not sure how long I was staring at her. But after a few seconds, I blurted out, "I am sorry," and she quickly covered herself with her hands. She was apologetic and started explaining herself. She said she just wanted to borrow my wife's clothes because her laundry was unwashed. It was super embarrassing to have a conversation with her in that state, and I looked away. She again apologized and then went out of the bedroom. The incident lasted less than 2 minutes. After a while, she again came back into our bedroom, fully dressed, and apologized for the incident. She said it was really embarrassing, and she did not know anyone would be home. I said, "It's okay," and I should have told her I am back early from the office when I came home. She asked me to not mention the incident to my wife. She said she feels embarrassed she walked around the hallway without clothes and that I saw her in that state. I said, "It's okay, and let's forget about it." I have not told my wife about the incident, and it's been 5 days. It was just a benign incident, but I somehow feel guilty about the whole thing. I feel more guilty that I'm lying to my wife by omission of the truth. However, I feel that if my wife takes it the wrong way, it may strain her relationship with Anna, and I really feel bad for Anna what she had to go through. I also do not want to make Anna uncomfortable in our house by telling my wife about her barging into our bedroom in that state. Am I the I in this case for not talking about this incident to my wife? I am afraid that if Anna tells it to her first, it will make me look really bad and guilty. However, if I tell her, I do not want her to blame Anna for any of this and not help her in her time of need. Can someone please help me on how I can tell my wife about this? Now for some comments. Comment 1. If you do not tell your wife, never keep secrets as a team with your house guest against your wife. Tell her gently, just as you say, I would tell her before she tells your wife. Make sure you tell her you truly believe it was an accident, as the conversation may just end up telling her to at least keep a shirt on when out of her room. If the friend is vindictive or thinks she wants to try and break up you and your wife, she may be the first to tell her, and the story may change to you coming to her room while she was sleeping topless and you creeping her. The first stories are always the one to believe. But it wasn't malicious what she did, you aren't trying to kick her out, and it could have been an honest mistake, and it doesn't have to be anything more than that. Comment 2. If she really was just walking in to get an item of clothing, assuming she and your wife have that kind of close, sharing friendship, and she was truly not aware that you were home, then this really doesn't sound like a big deal at all. It's a bit concerning that Anna is so worried about it. Granted, she is coming out of an abusive relationship. It really shouldn't have needed to be kept secret, and it's clearly bothering you to do so. Hey sweetie, I had an awkward moment with Anna the other day that she felt really embarrassed about and didn't want to tell you, and I tried to honor that, but I feel weird about keeping such a benign snafu quiet. I came home from work early that one day and went straight to the bedroom to hang out. I knew Anna was home, but I hadn't said anything to her to let her know I was home too. I was minding my own when she came in to borrow an item of your clothing, and she was topless because she didn't know I was home or in our bedroom. She was extremely embarrassed. I averted my eyes immediately. She explained about the clothes and apologized. It was awkward all around, and then she exited and got dressed. Do you have any questions or concerns? Thanks, this is really helpful. Maybe I am overthinking this, but I have read that in these situations the victim's trust in men is very fragile. Would it be horrible if I tell my wife after I told Anna I would not mention about this incident? Should I talk about this with Anna first? Comment 3. She tried to talk to you for nearly 2 minutes while topless? Sounds like she wanted to see what kind of time you were on. You need to tell your wife she deserves better. Comment 4. You are prioritizing another woman's wishes over your wife's right to know her husband has seen another woman nude in her home. No less. Are you sure she didn't know you were in there? You state you were cooking in the kitchen at home for an hour. Surely you were making noise? It's not uncommon for people with trauma to seek out comfort, especially with someone they may see as a savior. And no bra seems really sus. Are they even the same size? If this were me, I would probably have a laugh with my friend, not ask you to lie. Update 1. I wrote a post yesterday about an embarrassing situation that happened between my wife's best friend who is currently staying at our house. I was not sure how to bring it up to my wife, and you guys really helped me a lot in understanding the urgency of telling my wife. I also got some cool ideas on how to bring up the subject without making it awkward for anyone. For everyone saying Anna was doing it on purpose, I did not agree with it as I am an extremely average-looking person and women don't chase me. However, things since last night have been just crazy, and I think I'm spiraling a bit. Sorry for the long post. So, I decided to tell my wife last night as soon as she came home about the incident. I liked the idea of jokingly bringing it up casually so that we both can laugh about it and then forget it. Last night when my wife came home, I made sure I stayed in our bedroom. I asked Anna if she could stay with my kid downstairs as my wife was changing. I asked her if Anna still borrows her clothes. Anna had to borrow them regularly when she first moved, long story. My wife told me yes, and she has told Anna she can take anything from her closet if she needs it. I asked my wife if Anna told her about the funny incident from Friday. My wife said no, and I told her the whole story about how I came home early and Anna came in the room almost naked to get her clothes, and how embarrassing it was for both of us. As my wife was listening to this, she completely froze and turned pale. She started murmuring in Spanish, which is her and Anna's native language. I don't understand Spanish really well, but I understood the words hombre casado and orav. I asked her if she is okay, and she sat next to me and asked me to explain everything in detail. I just told her it was nothing, and she must have not heard me coming in. I was trying to laugh it off, but my wife had water in her eyes. I kept on telling her it was not a big deal, but she kept on asking me for more details. She asked me how Anna talks to me. I told her that Anna barely talks to me since she moved in, except a few words here and there. My wife then asked me about 3 weeks ago, when my wife had gone to visit her parents for 4 days. Anna did not want to go with her and stayed back. I told her that Anna was just acting normal. She or I would cook dinner after I got home from work while the other took care of the kid. The only thing different was Anna generally spending her evening in her room. However, when I was sitting in the living room watching TV after the kids slept, Anna came and sat on the sofa next to me but did not talk to me. I asked her if she wants me to change the channel or stream something she likes, and she just said she wanted to get out of her room. However, she did not flirt with me or do anything unusual. I kept on telling my wife that it was just an accident, and I really did not understand why she reacted so emotionally to it. My wife refused to answer and just said, "Okay," and agreed with me. However, she told me I should have told her about the incident sooner and should not keep any secrets from her, and gave me a big lecture. I told her that I did not think it was a big deal and thought Anna would tell her, but glad I brought it up. After dinner, my wife messaged Anna to join us, and she came out. While talking, my wife brought up the incident and told Anna that I mentioned about the incident and she does not need to feel embarrassed. Such things happen when we are all in the same house and it is not a big deal. Anna was firstly taken by surprise, but then told my wife she was just scared to tell her because she thought my wife would judge her because of her past. My wife gave her a stare there, and she quickly changed the topic. At night, I asked my wife what the hell was going on. I told her to please not keep any secrets from me, and if she does not tell me, I will directly ask Anna about what her past has got to do with anything. My first guess was Anna might have had a thing for me before we got married or something, but my wife was very reluctant to answer and kept on trying to change the subject and cuddle. However, I kept being persistent, and she finally spilled the beans. Apparently, when Anna was in her early 20s, she was in a relationship with a married coworker who was twice her age. It was a kind of sugar daddy relationship, and he told her that he was in an open relationship, or that's what Anna told my wife, and he would leave his wife in a few years once the kids go to college. This makes sense now because Anna is very pretty, like Miss USA level, and I never understood why she was single for most of the time I knew her. She eventually ended that relationship and started dating her boyfriend Jim, who turned out to be abusive. My wife said she suspects Anna was still involved with the older guy while in a relationship with Jim, which explains why he kept on accusing her of cheating. That is why my wife became wary when I told her what Anna did, because she was worried Anna has no boundaries regarding married men. My wife said that Anna always looks up to us and praises me for being such a loyal partner and how lucky my wife is. My wife was worried initially when she brought Anna home, but her actions from the time when my wife was away clearly show that she respects the boundaries, and it must have been an accident. My wife told me she is grateful I let Anna live in our house and observe what a healthy and happy marriage looks like. Today morning was even more weird. I got up early as I could not sleep well and went down for a cup of coffee. After 5 minutes, Anna walked into the kitchen and told me she was relieved my wife did not overreact to Friday's incident. She said I am a good husband and gave me a hug and a peck on the cheek. She has never hugged me in the last 6 months. She seemed to be in a happy mood and was making small talk with me while having coffee. I cannot believe my wife did not tell me such a huge detail about Anna for all these years. It's completely possible she cheated all through the relationship with Jim, and my wife is just covering for her all along. She even kept it a secret from me after giving me a lecture about how we should never have secrets, and I don't know what else she is hiding. Everything just seems very confusing at this point. I feel angry at my wife for lying to me all these years for Anna. I also now see Anna differently. I am also worried that me trivializing the incident to my wife might have sent wrong signals to Anna. Now for some comments. Comment 1. Anna needs to go before her own messed up issues lead her to further mess with your marriage. She was testing you again with a hug and kiss on the cheek, and I didn't see you writing that he told his wife about that new development. She's got to go before she pushes to the next level. Yes, I am also a bit mad at myself for trying to casually describe the event as some of the Redditors advised and not talk about the fact that she was in the room for a lot longer. I was worried that my wife would be pissed at me. Now I wish I told her all the details and did not make it sound trivial. My wife now trusts Anna, and I am getting more uncomfortable. Comment 2. It's clearly time for Anna to move out. I suggest you talk it over with your wife to set a date. Then both of you sit her down and let her know. She needs to know that this is coming from both of you. Then be very careful to not be alone with Anna. If that's not possible, have video cameras recording in your bedroom and in the living room. That should help a lot in case of any incidents or accusations. OP. I have not told my wife yet. Things were a bit icy between us since yesterday, as I am still upset at her for keeping secrets from me for all these years. I know it's Anna's personal life, but I feel a bit betrayed that for all these years she knew Anna was with a married man and never even mentioned it to me. We had a talk in the evening and she apologized, but then we both dropped the subject and took our son to the playground as the weather was finally nice and had an amazing time. I plan to tell her as soon as we both are alone at night. As I said in the comments, I do not think she will mind since it's not uncommon for her friends to give a quick peck on cheeks when saying hello. In fact, I was not comfortable with it at the start, and now I'm used to it. Her mom, cousins, friends, everyone kisses me. There are also weird rules where married women like my wife just hug, but non-married friends give a kiss unless you're family. Also, only girls give a kiss, but men don't kiss girls on cheeks. I learned that the hard way. I am not Latino, Colombian to be exact. And maybe someone who is familiar can explain the rules here so people who don't know the tradition won't misinterpret it as anything sexual. Also, I never keep anything from my wife, and hence I felt so guilty about my actions over the last week. I am sure I will mention it to her before the end of the day. Update 2. I wrote a few posts a month ago regarding my wife's friend Anna accidentally walking into our bedroom topless to get my wife's clothes while I was in the room. We addressed the issue the next day, but I learned more about Anna's past and why my wife was uncomfortable due to the situation. My wife and I talked to Anna and told her it was not a big deal, and we all decided to move on from the incident. After I posted the update, a lot of you advised me to tell my wife about Anna hugging and kissing me on the cheek the following morning. I felt uncomfortable with the situation, and the comments really made me nervous. Most of you were reading my post as a telenovela or a start of a porn movie, and the comments were really not helping calm me down. You may not like this part, but I just decided to get off Reddit for a while and try to think through the situation on how to tell my wife. I felt that my wife treats Anna as family, and just like her sisters. I have known my wife's sisters since they were in their early teens. I have had similar incidents happen with them all the time, and I never made a big deal out of it. There were so many times we had to tell them to keep their tops on when sitting in our backyard pool area when they were younger, and God knows how allergic they are to wearing pants around the house. However, I just treat them as they are my sisters. I decided I need to do the same with Anna and treat her like my wife's sisters. I also wanted to communicate that clearly to both Anna and my wife so that we don't get in such uncomfortable situations anymore. That night, I was talking to my wife and decided to put a positive spin on the incident that happened early morning. I asked my wife if she noticed anything different with Anna. I told her that she woke up early with me today and greeted me with a hug and kiss and also helped me make breakfast. I told her that I'm glad she finally looks happy and is returning back to her old self, and how proud I am of my wife that she is such a kind-hearted person who helped a friend in need. My wife seemed happy with my comment and started saying that she also noticed Anna was chattier in the morning and was cleaning her room and talking about applying for jobs again. I told my wife that I feel Anna is like one of her sisters, and I am happy she also considers us as family and is comfortable around us. The next few weeks were great. Anna started waking up early in the morning around the time I woke up, 5 a.m. We always had coffee together and had nice chats. She also helped me with breakfast and getting lunch boxes ready. She asked me if she can join my gym and if I can teach her some resistance training exercises. Her therapist told her it would be good for her to work out, so we started going to the gym 3 to 4 times a week in the evening before picking my son from daycare. It's nice to have a regular gym partner and someone to geek out about the daily protein intake. I also told her when we were cooking that she is so much less annoying than my sisters-in-law, and I wish she was my sister-in-law. She just smiled at the comment. Anna has already had a few interviews and also contacted her old job who seem interested in hiring her back. She told us 2 weeks ago that she will be looking for apartments. We already saw 2 apartments in our suburb and hopefully should finalize that soon. My wife jokingly told her that her dating prospects are going to be bleak if she stays in our suburb, but Anna told us that she is going to stay away from relationships, at least for a while now, and work on herself. Plus, she enjoys our gym and loves spending time with our son. About the hugging and kissing, I think I have decoded it. A hug from Anna is normal and I get one every morning. However, I think she kisses people on cheeks as a way to say, Thank you. Things are really looking positive for Anna, and we are very happy that she was able to get through a bad patch in her life. She had isolated herself from everyone after the incident 7 months ago. However, she plans to join my wife and son on her summer trip to my in-laws in a few weeks, unless there are any updates on the employment front. I just hope the best for her, and I'm glad that I did not make a big deal out of the situation. I am also glad to have such a kind and understanding wife who was there for her friend in need. Now on to the next story. Story 2. I discovered my boss was secretly funding her boyfriend's expensive trips with money cut for my salary. So, I gathered evidence of their affair and reported them to HR. Hello everyone. I need some advice. I recently discovered something shocking at work, and I don't know what to do about it. I spoke to a few of my friends, and they thought I should keep quiet and not say a word about it. I did not take that advice, and it seems like I am in deeper trouble now. Let me give you some background first. I am Melissa, 33F, a software engineer. I work at a mid-sized tech company and I've been there for about 5 years now. My job is pretty stable, and I've always been happy with my work. There's no stress or too much work. My team ends up closing the projects to the client's satisfaction, and our superiors cannot ask for more. I also get along with my colleagues, and I have a good relationship with my lead manager, Sarah, or at least I thought I did. We had a recent job interview drive where our HR interviewed close to 200 people to find the right person for a role in my team. I also sat down with her to narrow down the resumes and give calls to deserving candidates. We are flexible like that. We like to help each other out wherever possible, but only when our tasks are done for the day. I came across Tom's resume 28M. He has very good work experience with some of the leading tech companies in the country. I was surprised about why he would want to apply with our company if he worked with them, but I shouldn't be judging someone without knowing their story. I didn't want to do that, so I told my HR that Tom might be a good fit. My HR was happy to take his interview and he was hired. Took about 1 week for the other 2 new employees to join, but Tom started coming to the office within 2 days. What's more strange is that the team threw him a grand welcome party because Sarah insisted. I assumed that when other employees also joined, they would be receiving the same welcome, but after a week, they were given their work kit and that was all. I let it go. Tom was more talented than the others, so maybe the company wants to take special care of him. It did not go unnoticed that Sarah was the most excited one when Tom joined. Our team members also started discussing the same in the office cafeteria, but we all thought that Tom would be assigned some big projects, so they were trying to help him settle in first. Let me tell you a little bit about Sarah, 37F. She has been with the company for over 10 years now. She was a very hard-working person, and her work paid off. She was given promotions more frequently and is now our lead manager. There's also office gossip that she's always the favorite because she is related to the COO, but I personally feel that Sarah has so much to offer to the company. She is the face of so many projects. We receive a lot of suggestions from her, and our work becomes easier when she guides us. I don't blame people giving her more preference than the other managers. She brings in a lot of money, and it is only fair that people give her credit for the same. I got along with Sarah really well. We had our lunch together. We shared smoke sometimes when we took a break from work. She is a joyful person with very happy energy. She doesn't poke her nose where it is not necessary. I even looked up to her in a lot of situations, but I cannot say the same now. After the other employees joined, the work picked up pace. We were very busy with multiple projects. Tom proved to be an asset within a month. Sarah announced that Tom will be going to the Maldives to take care of a project with a client. As far as I was aware, we had no client in the Maldives. We assumed maybe it could be a new client, and they want to motivate newcomers to take up responsibility. Our team lead insisted that he would join Tom on the trip, but Sarah refused. She said Tom can take care of it himself, and there's no point in my team lead's work getting disturbed. We all agreed and gave Tom a nice send-off. He stayed there for a week. We had no communication with him. No details about the new project were shared with us. We were also neck-deep in work, so we paid no attention to what Tom was doing in the Maldives. After 12 days or so, we heard from our team lead that Tom would be going from the Maldives to Hawaii for a follow-up project. We do have a client in Hawaii, but another team member of ours always took care of the details there. She was confused why Tom was suddenly replacing her. Sarah assured my colleague that this was in no way a replacement. Tom was anyways out of the country, so he can handle the travel and take care of things. Apparently, he did really well with the Maldives client. Even the CEO is happy to know that we managed to grab the big fish. Or that's what we call the high-paying clients. My colleague was disappointed because she always did her best to keep the client satisfied. Even the client was comfortable with her. With Tom in the picture, she felt like her work was being discredited. We all motivated her not to think negatively and look at things on the bright side. Now she is free to accept new projects and explore more challenging tasks. Maybe the company has something new to offer to her. With that, she started feeling a little less sad. A month after the newcomers joined, we received our paycheck. I received my pay stub and noticed that my salary was lower than usual. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I checked my previous pay stubs and realized this never happened to me. There are a few tax cuts that may change the numbers a little, but this is huge, a few thousand. I was confused and worried. I needed that money to pay my bills and take care of my family. Being a single mother, the pay cut can affect my lifestyle. I will have to compromise on a lot of things every day, but I thought the company may have made the changes for a reason and did not approach HR. No one else seemed to have a problem. I kept quiet. There is no use in making a scene about it. Also, I worked lesser than usual that month. My sister was getting married, so I took a week's leave of absence. I never did that before. I didn't have the need. I thought maybe because of my leave they cut my pay. The next month, the same thing repeated. I noticed some changes at work. Tom started going on business trips to holiday locations like Bali, among others. The other newcomers did not receive the same treatment. They stayed in the office, did the work that is fit for junior workers, and received a pay that is much lesser than Tom's. It was not just me. A few of my other team members also had pay cuts that month. We all gathered in the cafeteria to get ourselves a cup of coffee. That's when we discussed the issue and realized that the pay cuts were not just my problem, but the others also received a lesser pay the previous month. I decided to talk to Sarah about it. She definitely knew something about it. Before rushing to HR, if I could get a word with her, maybe the issue could be solved. Well, that's what I thought. Sarah seemed surprised and said that she was not aware of this change. She promised that she would look into it. A few days later, she told me there was a mistake in the payroll system, and it would be fixed soon. I trusted her and waited for the next paycheck, but the problem continued. My salary was still lower, and Tom was still going on those trips. I started feeling suspicious. Why was my salary being cut while Tom was enjoying these luxury trips? I decided to do some digging. I talked to some colleagues in the HR department and checked our company's expense reports. What I found was shocking. It turned out that the money for Tom's trips was coming from the salary cuts of a few employees, including me. Sarah had authorized these cuts without telling anyone. Couldn't believe it. I felt betrayed and angry. She lied to my face that she didn't know anything about the new change while authorizing these trips that don't seem to hold any value to the company. Tom hardly visited the office anymore. Even when he is not on those trips, he sits at home and doesn't show up to work. No one says anything about it because Sarah used to defend him, saying that after such tiring trips, the young champ deserves a break. When other people on the team go on business trips, they are given a one-day leave for rest and they used to come back to work the following day. It is more and more evident that Tom was indeed being set free from his professional responsibilities. Sarah is giving it to him. Why would Sarah do this? Why was Tom getting special treatment? Also, we don't hear about any developments in Tom's projects. That's not how things were before he showed up at the workplace. Everything was very open and available to all employees. If Sarah lied to me, I should go ask her why she did it, right? It involved my hard-earned money. I had to cancel my kids' swimming and aerobics classes because of the lack of funds. If this goes on, I will have to make several changes that are not fair to me or my child. The others may not find this to be a huge problem. They have their partners at home whose salaries may balance the cuts. They did not say a word, but I couldn't do the same. Also, Sarah lied to me. I took Sarah's time and questioned her again. This time, she was defensive and tried to downplay the situation. She said the trips were important for business and that I would be compensated later, but I didn't buy it. Something didn't add up. If they were planning to compensate me, why not discuss the change with me before they put it into effect? Should I not be knowing about the change in my salary? Why were only a few of us affected? Why was Tom the only one going on these trips? I asked her the same and she got angry. She said I shouldn't be interfering with the decisions of the superiors. That is not how the corporate system works, and I should be aware of it after spending a good portion of my life working. Well, should I be aware? Because in my professional career, I've not seen managers sending a single employee to holiday destinations and calling it a necessity. We had a team party the weekend. We decided to visit a pub near our office. While we sat down and ordered our drinks and food, someone mentioned Tom. Everyone started talking about his strange trips. A few of us also told how we think that maybe our salary cuts are funding his trip. We all decided to dig deeper. We happened to invite one new joiner from the HR department to join us. She hangs out with us in the office, so we thought we'd include her too. While we were talking about Tom, she seemed very uncomfortable. While we were leaving, I asked her if something was troubling her. She initially refused, but the guilt was very clear on her face. I assured her that I won't let her name come out and requested her to help me. I also told her how I was being unfair to my child because I cannot afford his classes. She gave in when I mentioned my kid. What she told me shocked me so much that I had to take a break to digest it. Tom and Sarah are dating each other. They've been together even before Tom joined the company. We have strict policies at the workplace. A couple cannot work on the same team. If you are married, one of the partners will be assigned to a different team. More importantly, if one of the partners is in a higher work position, the other partner cannot work under them. Sarah kept it all a secret. I asked the girl from the HR department if she was sure because Sarah is married, and I don't think she'd cheat on her husband. They seem pretty close. The girl laughed and said, "Loyalty is just for the show. Look at Tom. He is so handsome and well-built. Why wouldn't a lady want to sleep with him?" I became very sad. My salary was funding Sarah's extramarital affair. The result is that my kid is not able to attend his classes like before. I have to see him sit disappointed at the house while his friends went to the classes every day. Just imagine how angry I must have been. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the betrayal and the unethical behavior. Sarah was using company resources to fulfill her personal desires, and Tom is also to be blamed. He knows what is happening and is taking advantage of the situation to enjoy luxury trips at the expense of others. I felt trapped. I wanted to report this to HR, but I was scared. I also didn't have any proof. The HR girl wouldn't come out in my support. She already made it clear that she won't be involving in any of it. She is new in her career may be affected. Yes, she is right. Sarah had a lot of power in the company. Tom also earned a reputation for having a bad temper. I didn't know how he would react if he found out I was investigating him. I was also worried about my job. What if Sarah decides to teach me a lesson? What if I lost my job? I had a child to support, and I couldn't afford to be unemployed. I can walk up to the HR office and place my doubts on the table. I know they would take it seriously and investigate, even if Sarah is related to the COO. But Sarah will hear about it. She will target me. What should I be doing? What do you people think? Should I go tell the HR manager that such practices were happening at the workplace? Or should I keep quiet and let it go? I can also look for another job and silently leave the company. But the change will be hard on me. I also got used to my work environment here, and leaving a company that I served for 5 years is not easy. It's been 6 months since Tom's first trip. He has been on 6 already. I don't think it is going to stop anytime soon. Sarah is not scared of anyone finding out. I must appreciate her for the bravery here, but her personal interests are against me. What should I do? Can you please give me some suggestions? Did any one of you experience the same or maybe similar situations at your workplace? How did you deal with it? Date 1. Thank you so much for your suggestions. I took them into consideration. I waited another 3 months to see if Sarah and Tom would slow down, but they did not. By this point, everyone in my team was angry and frustrated. Even my team lead started seeing smaller numbers on his payslip. I did not tell them anything about Tom and Sarah's affair. I didn't want to get in trouble. They did the digging on their own and found out about it. They asked me if I would join them to the HR office. I was hesitant and said I needed time to think. They were okay with letting me decide. I should thank them for that. If they would have forced me, I seriously don't know what I would have done. My daughter kept asking me to buy her these pretty shoes for about 2 months now. I used to make up reasons and refuse. That night, she burst out crying, saying how I don't take her out for fine dining anymore. Her classes are canceled. I won't buy her the shoes. She accused me of not loving her anymore. I felt really bad. I love my kid. I cannot let her think that her mother doesn't love her. That is the motivation I needed to say yes to my team. You remember I told you about my colleague who used to take care of the Hawaii client? She took the whole fuss to her heart. She indeed dug deeper than the others and found out very disturbing things. There is a reason Sarah sends Tom to these locations. She likes it when Tom goes to these places and sex chats with her from the exotic locations. She gets a thrill out of it. They enjoy this virtual makeout session or something, and Sarah loves it. During all these months, there were several times when I felt powerless and anxious. Every time I saw Tom, I felt a mix of anger and fear. He would come back from his trips talking nonstop about the amazing places he visited, and Sarah would act like nothing was wrong, praising Tom for his hard work. When you are trying to do the right thing, the universe will help you. I guess that is what happened to us too. We were looking for some solid proof to report Sarah. This was very necessary. We all knew they'd let her off with a warning and probably fire Tom. But she'd still be here, and what's worse, she will target all of us and make our professional environment very disturbing. I got the proof one day. I overheard a conversation between Tom and another colleague. Tom was bragging about his latest trip to Dubai. He mentioned how easy it was to get Sarah to approve the trip. He said something about Sarah being so desperate and how he could get her to do anything he wanted. That's when I realized how manipulative Tom was. He was exploiting Sarah's attraction to him and using it to his advantage. And Sarah is not a baby that she can't understand what's happening with her. She is letting it go because she is getting something in return. When I had the chance, I pulled my phone out and recorded the conversation. I ensured it was a video and not an audio, because then Tom and Sarah would argue that we tried to mimic Tom's voice. I didn't want to take any more chances. My team members and I met up in our team lead's house and discussed how to proceed further. We came to the conclusion that it is finally time to expose their affair to the HR department. This meeting happened 2 days ago, and we are planning to go to our HR manager tomorrow. I don't know what will happen there, but I'm hoping for the best. Let's wish that this doesn't backfire on my face. Update 2. Hello. Came back to give you an update on what happened with the HR manager. We all took the record of our pay stubs, emails from Sarah, and the other evidence that I recorded. We scheduled a meeting with HR and presented all the evidence. He was shocked and assured us they would investigate. I felt a bit relieved in the morning, but in the comfort of my room now, I am anxious. What will happen next? Will they call Sarah and Tom and talk to them about it? Will they call all of us together and discuss things right in front of them? I am very scared, but there's no point in worrying while lying on my bed. I should wait and see what happens. Update 3. It's been 2 weeks since we raised our complaints to the HR manager. We received a call today. The HR manager wanted to speak to all of us. While we were going to his office, we crossed Sarah, and she seemed like she was crying. She glared at us and stormed off without saying a word. We just looked at each other's faces and silently walked to the cabin of our HR manager. The HR told us that they had conducted their investigation and found that my claims were true. Sarah and Tom were both suspended pending further action. The surprising part was that Tom ratted out Sarah. He was so scared that everyone will blame things on him. He said Sarah manipulated him into doing it, and if he didn't agree, she threatened that she'd end his professional career. He said that she used her extensive professional network as leverage and said she'd never let any other company hire him. That's absolute BS. He is an equal partner in this whole thing. Just because he is under the scanner, he pushed Sarah under the bus. If word of this scandal should come out, no one would ever hire him anyway. But we are a mid-sized company. We don't have the time or energy to focus on spoiling someone else's career. It will be difficult, but if Tom steps out, he will eventually find a job. I cannot say the same about Sarah though. HR assured me that my salary would be corrected and that I would receive back pay for the months I was underpaid. He also thanked us all for bringing the issue to their attention. I was scared for nothing. It has been a tough few months, and I'm still processing everything. Finally, I will be able to buy those shoes for my daughter and also send her back to the classes. Date for. I thought things would be over once Tom and Sarah got what they deserve, but it only took a few days for the office atmosphere to get affected. After HR suspended Sarah and Tom, there was a lot of gossip in the office. People had so much to say about what had happened. Some people thought it was just a payroll mistake, while others suspected something more serious. I kept my head down and tried to stay out of the rumors. People were on edge, wondering if they would be next. Morale was low, and productivity dropped. I felt guilty for causing this disruption, even though I knew it wasn't my fault. I had done the right thing, but it didn't make the situation any easier. But it had to be done. Sarah and Tom couldn't have kept going at our expense. Sarah and Tom's suspension was extended as they were not cooperating with the HR team and were simply blaming each other without accepting that they made a mistake. The office felt strange without them. Sarah had been a big part of our team, and her absence was noticeable. Tom's absence was less impactful, well, obviously, because he was never present. But some people still talked about him. Many of my colleagues expressed concern for Sarah, saying she had always been a good manager. I have to agree with that, she was indeed very good. Others were angry and felt betrayed by her actions. I am one of them, but the show must go on. We cannot concentrate on Sarah and let our work efficiency reduce. We are all doing good now. I still feel weird, but I guess I will get over it with time. Thank you so much for all your suggestions and words of support. I was able to gain the courage to do the right thing with your help. Thanks a ton. Now on to the next story. Story 3. My husband is blaming me for being financially unfaithful. My husband, 33M, and I, 33F, have been married for 10 years, together since college. Since starting out, we have made financial security a priority and have been able to achieve that, albeit with some good luck along the way. We both have good jobs, paying close to $200,000 each. Student loans were paid off within a few years. Both went to state schools with some scholarships, so we didn't have a lot of debt to begin with. We live in a house I inherited from my grandmother, no mortgage, and don't have any credit card debt. We max out our 401ks and currently have 18 months of expenses in our emergency fund and are still adding to it. Our cars are both paid off and should be good for another 5+ years, and we don't have any credit card debt. We manage our finances in a hybrid manner, joint accounts for bills and savings, and separate accounts for our fun money. We each get a pretty generous monthly allotment. The fun money is strictly for our individual expenses, hobbies, clothes, outings with friends, etc., and not for things like date nights, vacations, or larger joint purchases like household appliances and repairs, which come out of our joint account. We also agreed that if either of us gets any bonuses or has any side hustle income, those will go into our individual fun money accounts unless the funds are needed for a larger expense, such as a major home repair. In terms of the fun money, my husband is much more of a spender than I am, due to expensive hobbies, in particular golf and collecting sports memorabilia, and he's also more into designer clothes, which is fine. It's his fun money. On the other hand, my hobbies are a lot less expensive: running/working out, reading, baking. In general, I'm more into converting a great time for me as I work out with a friend at one of our homes with homemade pastries. I have also been getting back into gaming lately after setting it aside for much of the past decade while building my career. After realizing I had more than enough in my fun money account, I decided to overhaul my gaming setup and got myself a new PC, desk, and gaming chair, total cost of about $5,000. However, upon hearing about the purchase, my husband is furious. He says he had no idea I had saved so much money and that I should have consulted him before spending $5,000. I asked what difference it made if it was my own accrued fun money and not our joint funds, and he insisted that my accumulating this amount without telling him was a form of financial infidelity. He says he lost trust in me and doesn't know what else I might be hiding. He is demanding that I return the items I purchased and deposit most of the funds to our joint account. He wants to make a new rule that fun money accounts can't accumulate more than $2,000 and that any excess goes back to the joint account, a rule that would obviously favor him as a person who spends most of his allotment each month instead of saving up for anything bigger. I feel like I am being punished for being more of a day-to-day saver than spender. It wouldn't occur to me to demand to know how much my husband has in his fun money account or to try to micromanage what he spends it on. I wasn't hiding anything deliberately. He never asked about it until after I made the purchases. Still, maybe I should have been more transparent about my plans. Miscellaneous info. My husband and I each have our own office/room in the house, so it's not like the gaming setup was going in a space he uses. I don't usually game when my husband is home unless he's already busy doing something else. My biggest block of gaming time is typically when he's off playing golf. Also, I run 40 to 50 miles a week, so it's not like I am generally sedentary. I can't think of a good reason why he would object to me gaming or having a nice gaming setup in my own space in the house. Update 1. Husband accused me of financial infidelity. My husband finally calmed down enough to have a conversation with me. As many others who provided comments suggested, it wasn't really about the money but a window into larger issues in our relationship. Essentially, my husband has been feeling increasingly unhappy with me for a while for the following reasons. In general, he feels that he's a lot more committed to his career development than I am to mine. It's true that although we currently have about the same income, the ceiling for his field, finance, is a lot higher than the one for mine, tech/software dev. He's currently in an executive training program, and I'm decidedly not. He's feeling resentful that he's having to work long hours in a high-pressure environment while I get to work primarily at home doing something that is fun and fairly easy for me, and I'm not stretching myself to do more. He's concerned that over time these resentments are going to build and that I'm not going to end up pulling my weight financially if he takes huge leaps in his career and I don't. He remarked that since getting back into gaming a few months ago, I've been putting a bit less effort into cooking. I do nearly all the cooking because I work at home and have an easier schedule. It's true that I've been fixing simpler meals, things like grilled chicken salads or chili with cornbread, instead of elaborate meals with fussier foods and several sides. He has also noticed that I haven't been doing the elaborate table settings I used to, with flowers on the table, fancy placemats, etc. Honestly, I didn't realize he noticed or cared about this, but apparently he does. Acts of service are one of his main love languages. So overall he's feeling a little neglected because of this. He also feels I'm not putting enough effort into my appearance. Not in terms of weight/body, I'm a long-distance runner and slim, but in terms of things like clothes, hair, etc. It's true that I've never paid much attention to these things. Given that I work at home and in tech, the standard for appearances is extremely low and I far exceed that. I tend to buy simple, practical clothes at places like Target and Walmart, don't wear much makeup, and keep my hair in a simple ponytail. I do glam up a lot more for date nights and other dressy occasions, but most days he comes home from work to find me in a t-shirt and yoga pants with no makeup, and he wants me to make more of an effort. The bottom line is that because of all these things, he's starting to notice other women. He says he hasn't cheated, he's just noticing other people because he's regularly disappointed in me. In particular, given that he works in finance, there are a good number of very career-oriented, Type A women who manage to have fantastic bodies, be effortlessly polished and glam, and have more interesting hobbies. He also says he feels horrible about all this because he knows I am a good person and that he's being judgmental, that it's not so much I've changed as that his own goals and expectations have changed in the past couple years. The financial infidelity part came into it because he feels I'm not really investing in myself and our relationship, thus cheating on our future in a sense. He also says he loves me enough to be honest. I do believe he isn't trying to be hurtful. I really had to drag all this out of him. He doesn't want us to drift apart further, that he doesn't want to be angry and resentful, and he knows he is asking for a lot. I know that many on this sub might say I should just tell him to take a hike and call a lawyer, but we've been married for 10 years, have invested a lot in the relationship, and I want to see if the marriage can be saved. So, a couple things. First, we did make an appointment with a marriage counselor and start next week. Also, I'm going to try to do at least some of the above. I'm not sure about making myself be more professionally ambitious when I'm already happy with my work-life balance and we're already financially very comfortable, but I can at least try doing the other things. Return to spending more time on cooking and decor, and fix myself up a bit when he's on his way home from work, now that I know they are important to him. I also know that in the end I may feel like I am just tiptoeing around and contorting myself to please him, but it won't cost me much, certainly much less than a divorce, to try for a month or two and then see how we both feel, and I know I would always regret it if I didn't try. So, maybe not the update that you were expecting or hoping for, but that's where things are, and if folks continue to be interested, I can update further once we have started marriage counseling and once I can feel out how the changes are going. Edit. I need to call it a night, but once again, thank you to everyone for your responses. They were really eye-opening and helped me to see that I do deserve better than the way I am being treated, and that the expectations my husband is laying out for me are unfair and unrealistic, especially as he isn't doing anything at all to make it easier for me to meet them or to show me he appreciates my efforts and everything I do bring to the table. I am indeed conditioned to be very people-pleasing, and that is impacting what I think is reasonable here. I have a lot to think about, such as, what do I really want here? What is going to make me happy, especially if I have to keep making myself smaller, metaphorically speaking, and contorting myself to please my husband? Do I really want to be in a marriage under those conditions? I think I'm really selling myself short if I just agree to most of what he demands. Still going to go to the marriage counseling appointment, but I think I will wait to make any other changes until we can at least get some professional input. More info, more in depth of their relationship / what she does / what he feels. Apparently, to answer your questions, yes, we each currently make about $200,000, so $400,000 between the two of us. And yes, his concern is that he's going to get promoted to a much higher salary executive position. He's currently being mentored / trained for such a position, which will pay $500,000 plus, and is due to be promoted in the next couple years if all goes well with the mentoring program, and I'll fall behind in earnings. Granted, we don't need the money for anything, as we don't have debt of any kind, don't have and aren't planning on having kids, and already have close to $1 million in retirement savings with 30-plus years left to work, but he's feeling like I'm going to be somehow riding his coattails, taking advantage of him, coasting while he just works harder and harder with longer and longer hours. All of the above, I suppose. In terms of meals, yes, I do all the prep, cooking, table setting, and cleanup. I do actually really enjoy it, and part of it is self-care for me, not just taking care of him. After all, I get to eat the food too. And as I work at home, I usually make enough that I can have food for lunch the next day too. I know this doesn't seem fair and that others probably think he should contribute more, but it really doesn't bother me at all as long as he does enjoy and appreciate it. In terms of work, I'm usually done by 5 to 6 o'clock p.m., and these days he doesn't get home until about 9 p.m. So, I wouldn't have to wear makeup and dressy clothes for work. I could just quickly change and fix my hair and makeup when he's on his way home. I don't think that clothes necessarily need to be designer. I can buy blouses / skirts and dresses at Target, just as well as t-shirts and yoga pants, or shop thrift stores or department store sales. I do agree that the women he is comparing me to probably don't wear fancy clothes and makeup at home. He's just seeing them in professional settings that require formal business dress. Anyway, I appreciate you saying I haven't done anything wrong here. There is a difference between a preference and a boundary. It's true that he did use the word boundary in our conversation where he revealed his unhappiness with me, as in, I have realized it's a boundary for me to be able to come home to a nicely dressed wife who has prepared a thoughtful meal. And yes, I do realize that completely misuses the word boundary. Update 2. So the more I thought about it, the more his requests / demands really were sitting poorly with me. I decided to try a little experiment over the weekend to see what would happen if I tried to meet some of his demands, not because I actually thought they were reasonable, but because I increasingly had the sense that the goalposts would just keep moving and that I was playing a losing game. So, Saturday morning I went to the salon for a glow-up, haircut, fresh highlights, mani/pedi, then went to the farmer's market to pick up fresh flowers for our table and assorted other gourmet ingredients. Saturday is usually our date night out, but I suggested we stay in so I could make us a special dinner. Steakhouse-style lobster bisque, bread basket with several types of rolls / savory muffins, made from scratch, crab-stuffed mushrooms, filet mignon, au gratin potatoes, white chocolate mousse topped with raspberries. I wore a lavender, his favorite color, on me, sheath dress and high heels and fully done hair and makeup. For all that, I got a lorm, thanks, it was tasty, and a kiss on the cheek. Of course, I did all the serving and cleanup. Sunday we usually go out, but he suggested I make us brunch at home, so I made French press coffee, mimosas with fresh squeezed orange juice, Belgian waffles with a bananas Foster topping, eggs scrambled with Parmesan and fresh herbs from our garden, roasted fingerling potatoes, and maple glazed bacon. I wore a blue sleeveless sundress, wedge sandals, again did my hair and makeup. Again, I got a thanks, it's good, and no help with serving or cleanup. Afterwards, I asked if this is what he had in mind when he critiqued me before. He said that it was a start, but that I was acting very entitled for wanting credit for basic adulting. He then dropped a bomb that he was being so hard on me because he had realized lately I had a lot to make up for due to my being a low-value woman. I asked what on earth he meant by that, and he said it was because I wasn't a virgin when we met. What? Keep in mind, we started dating at 21. Neither of us claimed to be virgins or stated that as an expectation, except for very religious people, neither of us is. I don't think most 21-year-old college students are virgins. I was upfront with him then that I'd had 2 previous partners, my high school boyfriend. We went our separate ways when we went to different colleges in different parts of the country. And another boyfriend I'd had my first year of college. And that's it, both committed relationships and nothing casual. He then went on to say that because of my low value, I was going to need to be making it up to him for the rest of my life, that I didn't deserve monogamy or equal treatment, and that I was lucky that anyone at all wanted to marry me and that he's connected with someone from work, so if I wanted to keep him, I'd better step up. I told him it didn't sound like there was anything to keep if he no longer loved me or even liked or respected me. I told him to leave, and he said he would gladly go to his girlfriend's place. I know so many people here insisted he was having an affair and I just didn't want to see it, that his complaints were really all part of a campaign to distance himself from me. I feel so foolish for just thinking he was going through a stressful time at work or that he genuinely wanted to work on our marriage. Anyway, I have taken the week off from work to get my head together, have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow, canceled the marriage counseling appointment, but got a referral to an individual therapist who can do an intake session with me later in the week. He and the girlfriend apparently are coming this evening to get more of his clothes and things, so I have to brace myself for that. Also, please be assured, I do not think I am low value in any way. I let my husband make me think less of myself on some levels for a short time, but now I truly see it was his problem. Obviously, we don't share the same goals and values, and he has become someone I don't recognize. I know the divorce won't be fun or easy, but I will be okay. Thank you all for helping me see that I was being played before I wasted too much more time in a marriage that was already over. Update 3. Hi all, I wasn't going to post another update, at least not this soon, but I've gotten dozens of DMs/messages asking if I'm okay and how things are going, so this is specifically in response to those who are checking in on me. To recap my story, I first posted a couple weeks ago that my husband accused me of financial infidelity after I spent $5,000 of my own fun money allotment on a gaming computer, desk, and chair. Even though my spending was within our agreed-upon rules, he subsequently admitted that he wasn't really upset about the gaming setup, but about what he perceived as a lack of professional ambition. I'm a senior software dev and we make the same salary at the moment. Plus, he wanted me to cook more elaborate meals, put more effort into home decor, and dress up more for him. Finally, about a week later, he accused me of being low-valued due to not being a virgin when we met at age 21. Neither was he, and he never once previously criticized that in our 12 years together, and told me he was having an affair with a younger coworker who had been a virgin. Gross, I know. Then he moved out and in with her. Folks have been asking me this week how things went with him picking up his stuff, meeting with my lawyer, etc. So I wanted to share those updates for anyone interested. So, he was supposed to come get his stuff on Tuesday evening a couple days ago, but told me at the last minute he couldn't because Amy, his girlfriend, wasn't feeling well. Some people called it in the comments, but yes, she's pregnant. Apparently, he told me this on text, so I have proof of the affair in writing now. It's not just his word against mine. Anyway, I didn't want him to keep jerking me around on the schedule for whatever reason, so I told him I'd pack his stuff for him and arrange for movers. I think it's better that way. I really didn't want him slash them in the house. I already had arranged for a friend to come over on Tuesday when he and Amy were supposed to come by. So the two of us spent the evening packing his clothes and other personal effects. The movers came yesterday and got the boxes and the furniture items he wanted. He didn't want much, just the stuff from his home office and his dresser. as apparently Amy's apartment is small. I provided a detailed inventory and photos of everything, which he approved, so he can't say that I broke or otherwise ruined his stuff. After that, yesterday I went to the clinic to get STD tests, won't have the results for a week or so, but thankfully I haven't had any symptoms, and met with my lawyer who said I had a good case for grounds of adultery and mental cruelty if I want/need to go that route. At a minimum, it's leverage to get him to settle quickly and quietly. Also, I locked down all the finances within the parameters provided by the lawyer so that he can't empty our joint funds or take anything that belongs to me, changed account beneficiaries and all that fun stuff. I changed the locks to the house too. I decided to take the advice of some of the commenters, and I'm getting rid of the bed and other bedroom furniture I shared with him. I'm donating it. Someone is coming this afternoon to haul it all off, and I'm going to completely redecorate the bedroom to my own taste. That will take a bit. Staying in one of the guest rooms in the meantime. I'm also taking a spa weekend away, leaving tomorrow morning and back Sunday night, just to get a change of scenery before I have to go back to work next week. And yes, even after buying the gaming setup, I have plenty of fun money left in my account to afford my lawyer's retainer and redoing the bedroom, as well as my getaway, with plenty leftovers. Frugality when it counts. Those are the main updates for the moment. I'm doing better than expected, I think, and realizing more day by day that it really wasn't a good marriage, at least not for the last couple years when he started expecting me to do everything around the house and all the other emotional labor of running our lives outside of work with no help and little to no gratitude. Amy sure is going to have her hands full. Edit. Once again, I cannot thank everyone here enough. I need to get ready for my spa weekend away, so apologies in advance if I have not responded to your comment or DM, but I am really grateful for all the support and encouragement. Hopefully there won't be any more notable updates for a while. I really just want a smooth and easy divorce and to get on with my life, so please keep your fingers crossed for me. Update 4. Was accused of financial infidelity/husband was actually cheating. Not sure if folks remember, but I had a series of posts earlier in the summer, actual links in my profile. First about whether I was the a-hole for buying an expensive gaming PC, desk, and chair with my own allocation of fun money, leading to an accusation of financial infidelity from my husband. Later he told me the actual issue was that he was disappointed by my job, senior software dev, but not on the executive management track, relatively casual appearance, not dressing up in dresses, makeup, and heels for dinners at home, and my failure to cook extremely elaborate multi-course meals on a nightly basis. After a simple experiment showed that changing these things, the cooking and appearance anyway, would not actually make him happy, he accused me of being low value because I wasn't a virgin when we met in college 12 years ago, something he had never stated was an issue before, and then admitted he was cheating with a coworker who is now pregnant. Last I updated, he had moved in with Amy, his coworker, and we were starting the divorce process. I'm updating again here because a lot of kind people have been checking in with well wishes and to see how I'm holding up. Sorry for not updating sooner, but as soon as I got back from the spa weekend I mentioned in my last update, I dove into working with my attorney on the divorce settlement and didn't think it wise to put my business on the internet, however anonymously, with the legal issues up in the air. The good news is that we were able to come to an agreement pretty quickly, and everything is now executed, just waiting for the court date, which could take another couple months, but my lawyer says the agreement is airtight. It wasn't quite as favorable as most of you all lovely folks probably would have wanted from me, but I was highly motivated to get it done fast. I did get everything that really mattered to me. First, the house I inherited from my grandmother is 100% mine, along with all the furnishings and other effects in the house. My own retirement accounts and my fun money account are all mine as well. Otherwise, I did have to give him 75% of the other cash assets. Although he wasn't on the title for the house, he did contribute substantially to the large renovation we did, as well as to upkeep since then, and the house appreciated very substantially in the years since we moved in. It's fine, as I still have plenty of money, especially as I'm quite frugal most of the time, and can rebuild cash savings quickly. Our agreement also states that neither of us has a claim on each other's past, present, or future earnings. So in case something happens and he loses his job before the court date, I won't be liable for any alimony. This is actually overall a very good deal for me and gives me a lot of security. In case anyone is wondering how we got this done so quickly, our state allows divorce on mutual consent grounds, which basically allows for a quick divorce without a legal separation period if the parties come to an agreement about all the finances/assets. Given that Amy is pregnant, my soon-to-be ex, let's call him Joe, yes, like the psychopath in the show was also very motivated to not drag this out. Now for the real dirt of this update. Last weekend, shortly after all our papers were signed, Amy reached out to me. She asked if we could meet and talk. Perhaps I should have declined, but I will admit I was curious about the 24-year-old prodigy, and until recently, a virgin person who was Joe's affair partner. So I agreed to meet her for lunch. So, the first thing is, Amy is very pregnant, like third trimester. She confirmed she is due in mid-October, which means the affair has been going on a whole lot longer than Joe let on. Whatever, it's water under the bridge as the divorce is almost final. However, after some polite but chilly pleasantries, she asked me when I am going to be moving out of the house because surely Joe has been patient enough with giving me time to get my life together. And her apartment is small and they are needing space for the baby. What? I told her she must be mistaken as the house is mine, inherited from my grandmother, but asked her what else has Joe told her about me and our marriage. And lie after lie, Joe's lies, that is, tumbled out of her mouth, along with crumbs of the real story. These gems include, well, it was true that she and Joe met at work, but it was about a year ago when they were both interviewing for the executive training program they are now in. Amy said, though, that they first became friends before getting together romantically. Apparently Joe told her that he was legally married, but that we had been separated in spirit and living separate lives since 2020, but that he didn't want to kick me out and make me homeless during the pandemic because I didn't make much money and we live in a call. Joe told Amy that we met in our early 20s when he was mentoring me in a GED prep program, that I was a high school dropout who was struggling with addiction, and essentially that he rescued me, helped me get clean, tutored me for my GED, and had been supporting me since through gradually working on college classes. He told Amy I was working on prepping for an IT career and was currently making $45,000 as a help desk technician, and that he wanted to make sure I could at least afford a studio apartment. He also told Amy that we had separated because I had relapsed, and he couldn't have a meaningful relationship with a drug addict. All this is lies. My entire history of drug use is occasionally sharing a joint in college, maybe 4 or 5 times total. Never anything harder. It is true that Amy was a 24-year-old virgin prodigy. She seemed dismayed that Joe had told me that, though at least the virgin part, said it wasn't a moral issue, she really was just focused on school and work and didn't make time to date, and that generally guys her age seemed mostly interested in casual hookups, especially the younger finance bro types, and she wasn't interested in that, but that Joe took the time to get to know her and was actually interested in a meaningful relationship. I asked her if the pregnancy was planned. She said, "No, of course not. But it was a miracle because Joe had a vasectomy, so they took that as a sign that they should keep the baby." No, Joe did not have a vasectomy. As we were planning to be a child-free couple, I suggested it a couple times over the years. He firmly stated he didn't want to alter his body like that, so he left birth control as my responsibility. So it really does seem that Amy is pretty blameless here. I mean, those of us who have been around the block would likely know not to believe a guy who claims to be separated but is still legally married and living with his wife, but without her having any dating/relationship experience, I can see where she would have taken him at his word about everything. After all, I didn't know anything was amiss with Joe until a couple months ago, and I was married to him. Of course, Amy didn't want to believe me, and I don't blame her for that either. After all, she's been in a relationship with Joe for close to a year, and is 7+ months pregnant with his baby, who is coming soon, ready or not. I couldn't immediately refute everything she said, but showed her a couple things. First, a picture of me in my late teens with my grandmother in front of my house, and also my LinkedIn profile which shows my current job and education. Told her to do what she wanted with the info and to please stay safe and take care of herself, and then said my goodbyes. Yes, it was all very odd and unexpected and surreal. Sorry this is so long, but figured those following my tale would be interested in this turn. I am not sure if I will update again. Maybe in a year or so when I have truly processed everything with lots of therapy and I'm hopefully on to living my best life. As for Joe and Amy, it's up to them to find whatever their path is. I do hope she wises up and leaves him, but I'm sadly not confident about that. I'm sure he will be able to spin all this in his favor because that's what he does, but I also can't make it my problem anymore. Now on to the next story. Story 4. I asked my mom for help because I'm pregnant, But she made it all about herself and called me controlling while my husband was away deployed, so he couldn't be at home during the birth. I'm 8 months pregnant, and my husband is in the military. I want to preface this whole thing by saying that my husband is currently deployed and will most likely not be able to come home for the birth. He tried to get leave, but his command denied it because apparently an unborn child isn't as important as whatever the hell they're doing over there. Sorry for the rant, but it's just been really hard dealing with this pregnancy basically alone. For context, we've been married for 3 years, together for 6. He's been deployed twice before, but this is our first baby, so the timing really sucks. We live about 800 miles away from both our families because of his base assignment, which makes everything more complicated. Knowing he won't be here, my husband and I had originally planned for my own mother to fly into town and help me before and after giving birth. To be clear, we were going to pay for the plane tickets because she's always complaining about money. The plan was for her to come about a week before my due date and stay for maybe 3 weeks after to help me adjust to motherhood while I'm recovering. For the past few months, I've had this gut feeling that my mom wouldn't be able to help me in the ways I needed to be helped. I don't know how to explain it. Just one of those things where you know something isn't right. She's always been kind of self-centered. Like when I graduated college, she spent the whole weekend talking about how proud she was and how she raised such a smart daughter instead of just letting me have my moment. Little things like that have always bothered me, but I usually just let them go because it's easier than confronting her. Another example. When my husband and I got engaged, her first response wasn't, "Congratulations," but, "I hope you're not expecting me to pay for a wedding." We weren't, but that was her immediate concern. So, I discussed this with my therapist during one of our sessions, and we decided that I should have a conversation with my mom, letting her know what I may need help with. My therapist thought being upfront about expectations would help avoid issues later. Seemed reasonable enough. And honestly, I thought I was being mature by trying to communicate clearly instead of assuming she'd know what I needed. Took me like 2 weeks to finally gather up the courage to talk to my mom. I called her one night after dinner and tried to explain how I expected the stay to go. I told her I'd probably need help with cooking and chores that require bending over in the event that I had to get a C-section. I explained that I might need help with laundry, maybe grocery shopping, since I don't know how mobile I'll be after birth. Like normal stuff any mom would do for their daughter who just pushed a human out of their body, right? I also told her that during this time, her role is to be my mom and not grandma. What I meant by that was that I needed her to help me recover, not just hold the baby all day while I hobble around trying to keep the house from falling apart. I wasn't saying she couldn't bond with the baby at all, just that the primary purpose of her visit was to help me, so I could focus on learning to be a mom and recovering physically. She laughed at that comment about being my mom, not grandma, which made me uncomfortable. Then she said something like, "Well, I'm coming to see my grandchild, not to be your maid." I tried to explain that's not what I meant, but she kept making these little jokes about how demanding I was being. The whole conversation made me feel uneasy, like she wasn't really listening to what I was saying. That feeling was solidified when my sister called me the next day and said Mom was complaining about how I had a bunch of rules for when she visits. She told my sister that I was being hormonal and that I was going to dictate when she could even hold her own grandchild, like asking for help when I'm recovering from childbirth is somehow imposing rules on her. My sister was trying to play both sides, saying, "You know how Mom is," but also suggesting I was being a bit too controlling, which honestly made me feel even worse about the whole situation. Then a few days later, my mom calls me out of the blue. It was actually the day before my husband was leaving for his deployment, and we were trying to spend as much quality time together as possible before he left. I had a feeling it was because she was upset with what I was asking for. So, shortly after I answered the call, I said, "My husband is leaving for deployment tomorrow. We are doing XYZ one last time," to hint at her that now isn't a good time to discuss whatever she wanted to talk about. I was trying to be nice about it without being too direct. My mom doesn't exactly care about others' needs or emotions, though, and she kept pressing. She asked me if I even wanted her to visit, and she also made a snide comment about me wanting a live-in maid. When I tell you I lost my shit, I am not even kidding. I'm not proud of this, but I yelled at her. I said, "I'm sorry you expected to come here and be catered to, have me cook and clean for you with my vagina bleeding and my nipples chapped and bleeding when my husband is deployed. That you thought you would get to play grandma the entire time. Her response, well, you didn't say you wanted that. Like, what the actual fuck? What did she think help meant? That she would come to my house for 3 weeks, hold the baby whenever she wanted, and I would serve her meals and clean up after her while dealing with postpartum recovery? I ended up hanging up on her because I was so angry I was shaking, and I knew nothing productive would come from continuing the conversation. I spent the next couple days trying to calm down and focus on saying goodbye to my husband. It was already emotional enough without this added stress. He was pretty upset about the situation, too. He's always gotten along with my mom. Okay. But he was really bothered by how she was acting when he was about to leave and couldn't be here to support me. After he left, I called my mother-in-law to vent about the situation. I wasn't really calling to ask her to come instead, but during our conversation, she immediately offered. She said she had been worried about me being alone during this time anyway and had been wondering if there was anything she could do to help. I was honestly surprised because while we've always had a good relationship, we're not super close or anything. So, after talking with my husband, I decided to have my mother-in-law come instead. She's actually really nice and immediately offered to come when I called her. My mom doesn't know about this. I lied by omission when I called her the following week to let her know she can visit when my husband returns from deployment instead. She thinks that I am just going to have local friends assist me, which is technically not a lie since I do have some friends nearby who offered to bring meals and stuff. Actually, one of my neighbors who has 3 kids herself has been amazing. She checks on me almost daily and has already made and frozen several meals for after the baby comes. She's been more supportive than my own mother, which is both wonderful and sad at the same time. I told my sister I may have my mother-in-law come out instead, and she was skeptical, but mostly because of our own mother's reaction. She was like, you know, mom's going to flip her shit if she finds out, right? As if I'm making the wrong choice because if our mom were to find out, it would cause immense drama. My sister has always been the peacekeeper in the family. She'll call out mom's behavior in private, but never actually confront her about it. I get it, it's easier that way, but sometimes I feel like I'm the only one willing to stand up to her. So that's where I'm at now. My mother-in-law is scheduled to arrive a week before my due date. My mom thinks I'm doing this on my own, and I'm terrified she's going to find out somehow and cause a huge scene right when I'm most vulnerable. So, AITA for choosing my mother-in-law over my own mother? Edit. I should clarify that the only people who know that my MIL is coming to help are my MIL, myself, and my husband. I mentioned the idea of my MIL coming to my sister because for a brief period, my sister was going to come in my mother's place. However, due to my sister being a labor and delivery nurse in a different state, the likelihood of her being able to be here when I go into labor was slim to none. So, I casually mentioned to my sister that my MIL might come and will be available when I'm due to feel out her reaction to me no longer needing her help around that time. Anyways, that's why my sister knows that there's a possibility of my MIL coming. I purposely haven't told her my MIL is definitely coming to prevent her from slipping up and telling my mom. I know it's all messy, and it's mostly because everything unfolded so quickly. I'm trying to keep the peace, but also do what's best for me and the baby. This pregnancy has been stressful enough without all this family drama. I've been having trouble sleeping, my blood pressure is slightly elevated, which my doctor is monitoring, and I just want to focus on having a healthy baby instead of dealing with family politics. Another edit because people keep asking, yes, I've tried talking to my mom about this stuff before. This isn't the first time she's made things about herself. When I got married 3 years ago, she threw a fit about the bridesmaid dresses because she didn't like the color I picked. When I got my first real job after college, she told everyone it was because she encouraged me to apply. It's always been like this. She wasn't always this way, though. When I was younger, she was actually a really good mom in many ways. She helped me with school projects, came to all my soccer games, taught me how to cook. Something changed when I went to college, like she couldn't handle me becoming independent. My dad just goes along with whatever she says to avoid conflict, which doesn't help. Also, my husband and I are fine. Some of you are reading way too much into this. He's upset he can't be here, but we're handling it the best we can. Military life sucks sometimes, but we knew what we were signing up for. We video chat almost every day when he has access to communications, and he's been incredibly supportive from afar. This is actually his third deployment, so we've gotten somewhat used to being apart, though obviously, this time is different with the baby coming. Final edit. I can't respond to everyone, but I'm reading all your comments. A lot of you are saying I'm NTA, and I appreciate that. Some of you are saying I'm the asshole for not being direct with my mom, and yeah, maybe you're right. But those of you who grew up with narcissistic parents know it's not that simple. When you've spent your whole life tiptoeing around someone's feelings, it's hard to suddenly be confrontational. I'll try to update if anything major happens, but the baby's due in a few weeks, so I might be a bit busy. LOL. Thanks for all the feedback. It's actually been really helpful to get outside perspectives on this. Update 1. Can't believe I'm actually updating this. I didn't think anyone would care about my family drama, but a bunch of people messaged me asking for an update, so here goes. Also, thanks for all the awards on my original post. That was unexpected. After 2 weeks of no contact, I finally spoke with my mom. I had been ignoring most of her texts and calls because I just needed some space to figure out how I felt about everything. She finally left me a voicemail that sounded genuinely worried. So, I decided it was time to have a real conversation. I revealed that I had been distant due to me having to process my feelings. I told her that I found it very hurtful that me asking for help was spun into requiring her to be my live-in maid during my postpartum period. I had also explained that I hadn't been updating her or my dad on the pregnancy due to their lack of interest/support. She tried to interrupt me several times with excuses, but for once, I stood my ground and finished what I needed to say. I think she was shocked that I wasn't backing down like I usually do. There was this awkward silence after I finished speaking, like she was waiting for me to apologize or something, but I just waited for her response. During this conversation, I learned that when I had first asked her for help, she for some reason interpreted this as me saying I did not want her there. She kept repeating over and over, "Well, you had made up your mind that you didn't want me there when you were talking to me about the things you needed." So, I stopped her and I was like, "Make this make sense. Why the hell would I have it in my mind that I'm paying for your ticket to come over here, come up with a list of ways I can /want to be helped, work up the courage to have that conversation with you and have that talk? Why would I go through all of that? I'm not a teenager. I have no interest in playing mind games." She didn't have a real response to that other than, "Okay." Mystery solved as to where all of that stemmed from. I think in her mind, me setting any kind of boundaries or expectations was equivalent to me not wanting her here at all, which is ridiculous, but at least I understand her logic now, even if it's flawed. As for lack of interest/support, that quite literally stemmed from their reactions or lack thereof to the news of me being pregnant and any updates regarding the pregnancy, such as the name, gender, and appointment updates. When we first told them I was pregnant, their reaction was basically, "That's nice." And then my dad immediately changed the subject to some home renovation they were doing. No excitement, no questions about how I was feeling. Nothing. Any information that was revealed to both my mom or dad after that, I would get a very mild, cool, or response along those lines. When I told them we were having a boy, my mom just said, "That's nice," and then started talking about my cousin's new job. When I sent them the 20-week ultrasound picture, my dad just replied with a thumbs-up emoji. I stopped sending updates after that because it just hurt too much to be met with such indifference. When I addressed this today, my mom asked, "Well, how do you want us to react?" I responded with, "I shouldn't have to tell my parents how to show interest or excitement over a new grandchild." She seemed genuinely confused, like it hadn't even occurred to her that her reactions had been hurtful. That's the part that gets me. She doesn't even realize how her behavior affects others. She did eventually say she was sorry if she hurt my feelings, but it was one of those, "I'm sorry you feel that way" apologies that doesn't actually acknowledge any wrongdoing. Still, it was something, I guess. While it may seem like this conversation didn't quite go well because there was no real promise of solution/change, it was extremely healing for me. I prefaced the talk with, "I am not expecting anything to change. I'm letting you know the reasons I have been distant. I have already thought about this and I have already processed these feelings. I need to put this out there so that way it doesn't build and I don't end up resentful. My mother-in-law is still coming to help after the birth. I haven't told my mom this, and I probably won't. I'm due in about a week and a half, and I'm honestly so relieved that I'll have someone supportive here instead of dealing with my mom's shit on top of recovering from childbirth and taking care of a newborn. My mother-in-law arrived yesterday and has already been amazing. She brought groceries with her, made dinner last night, and has been helping me finish setting up the nursery. She's staying in our guest room and already told me that once the baby comes, she'll handle the cooking and cleaning so I can focus on recovery and bonding with the baby. She hasn't once made me feel like I'm imposing or like her help comes with strings attached. I had a doctor's appointment today and apparently I'm already 1 centimeter dilated. So things might be happening sooner rather than later. It's getting real, and I'm equal parts excited and terrified. My husband and I video chatted last night and he got emotional seeing the nursery all set up. It's hard that he's missing this, but I'm grateful for technology that at least lets him be somewhat involved from a distance. Thanks for all the people who provided input on my initial post. The validation really helped me feel confident in my decision. I might update again after the baby comes. But who knows? Life's about to get pretty hectic. Update 2. Well, this is an update I didn't think would actually happen. But here we are. Just a warning, I am raging internally, so this may not be written well. I'm typing this at 3 a.m. while feeding the baby. So sorry for any typos or if I ramble. Sleep deprivation is no joke. First and foremost, the birth went well if you consider 26 hours of labor well. Baby boy is healthy and perfect though, so I can't complain too much. He was born 2 weeks ago, weighing 7 pounds 8 ounces. Labor was nothing like I expected, longer, more painful. My mother-in-law was a rock star throughout the whole thing. She stayed at the hospital with me the entire time, held my hand through contractions, talked for me with the nurses when I was too exhausted to speak for myself, and even remembered to take photos of those first precious moments that I can share with my husband. My MIL was incredibly supportive and helpful throughout everything, not just the birth itself. The first week home was a blur of diaper changes, feeding attempts. Breastfeeding is way harder than anyone tells you, and trying to figure out this tiny human's needs. My MIL cooked every meal, did all the laundry, and would take the baby for an hour or two between feedings so I could shower or nap. She never once made me feel like I was doing anything wrong or that I should be bouncing back faster. She shared stories about when she had her kids without making it seem like her experience was the only right way to do things. The months leading up to me giving birth, the relationship I had with my mother was very surface level. I did not reach out as frequently as I used to. Things got a bit tense about a week prior to me giving birth due to other family stuff I won't get into. Basically, my mom got into an argument with my aunt, her sister, and somehow expected me to take her side even though I wasn't involved at all. When I refused to get in the middle of it, she gave me the silent treatment for a few days. My mother did not call or text me the 2 weeks leading up to my due date. Not a single, "How are you feeling?" or anything I can do. Nothing. Honestly, the icing on the cake was my father asking me if I was having a boy or a girl. My husband and I told both of them before. Like, are you serious right now? I've been pregnant for 9 months. We told you the gender 6 months ago, and you can't even remember that basic detail about your first grandchild? The distance led me to telling them I had my son the next afternoon after he was born rather than immediately. My MIL suggested I take that time to rest and bond with the baby without the stress of dealing with my parents' reaction or lack thereof, and she was absolutely right. That decision brought me a lot of peace, which probably says a lot about our relationship. When I did call to tell them, my mom's first question wasn't about the baby or how I was doing, but, "Why didn't you call us sooner?" I gave some excuse about being exhausted and my phone dying, which she seemed to accept. She asked a few questions about the baby, but didn't seem particularly interested in the answers. The call lasted maybe 5 minutes. My dad didn't even get on the phone. They didn't visit right away, which was fine with me. They sent a gift card and some baby clothes that were the wrong size and season. My MIL stayed for 3 weeks, and by the time she left, I felt capable and confident in caring for my son on my own. My husband has been able to video chat almost daily to see the baby, and while it's not the same as having him here, we're making it work. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago. I called my mother to chat, not about anything serious, just a quick check-in. The phone call threw me off because she apologized to me. She said, I miss you. Our relationship is different, and I don't know how to fix it because I feel like I don't have the opportunity to. I should have handled the talk a lot differently. I want to come and help you. I was shocked. My mom rarely apologizes for anything, so this seemed significant. She sounded genuinely remorseful, and part of me wanted to believe she had finally realized how her behavior had affected me. She went on about how she regretted not being more supportive during my pregnancy, and how she wanted a chance to be there for me and meet her grandson. I don't know if it was my postpartum hormones, being overwhelmed with caring for a newborn alone, or just a deep-seated desire to have a good relationship with my mother, but against my better judgment, I offered to have her come for 6 days. Honestly, my first red flag should have been her not fighting back and saying she could pay her own way when I mentioned booking flights. But oh well, I figured this visit would benefit me in the sense that I could try to be less resentful, and I could at least say that I tried. Plus, I thought maybe seeing the baby in person would bring out a more nurturing side of her that had been absent so far. She arrived Saturday night, and the first full day was Sunday. I spent a lot of that day feeling agitated because the second I would lay my son down in his bassinet to go do something, she would pick him up. Even if he was sleeping peacefully, she would disturb him to hold him. When I'd ask her to please let him sleep, she'd say things like, "But Grandma needs her cuddles." Or, "He doesn't mind, do you, baby?" It became quite clear to me that my decision to have my MIL come and help me during the first weeks was the correct one. That evening, I told her that she cannot pick my son up every single time he cries because once she leaves, I physically am not able to do that for him. I explained that sometimes I need to let him fuss for a minute while I finish using the bathroom or grab a glass of water, and that by rushing to pick him up instantly every time, she was creating habits that I couldn't maintain as a solo parent. I told her that I'm essentially a single parent until the foreseeable future, and I need to establish routines that work for our situation. She sheepishly apologized and said she wasn't thinking about after she wasn't going to be here. But the behavior didn't really change. She would wait until I was in the shower or busy in another room, then pick him up anyway. I would come back to find her holding him when I'd specifically asked her not to disturb him if he was content. But this stay has just been a shit show from start to finish. I didn't trust her watching him alone for long periods because I caught her starting to fall asleep on the couch while holding my baby literally 30 minutes after she told me I could go nap. Thank God I was in the kitchen prepping dinner and I caught it. When I mentioned it to her, she got defensive and said she wasn't really asleep and that I was being overprotective. Sorry for not wanting my 2-week-old to be dropped or suffocated because his grandmother fell asleep holding him. She did not offer to make meals even once during her stay. Every day I would ask what she wanted for dinner, and she would just say, "Whatever you're making is fine," without offering to help. One night I was so exhausted that I suggested ordering pizza, and she made a comment about how that wasn't healthy for a breastfeeding mom. But did she offer to cook something nutritious instead? Nope. She made a comment about eating dinner at 8 p.m. because she isn't used to it like me. I had to tell her that eating dinner at 8 p.m. is not a choice or a preference I have. I told her she didn't offer to step in and start dinner while I was doing laundry, FaceTiming my husband in between his watches, or nursing my son. The day literally revolves around the baby's needs, not some arbitrary dinner schedule. What was she doing while I was juggling all of this? Basking in the Florida sun on my patio with the dogs while scrolling on her damn phone. When I finally confronted her about her lack of help, she said she didn't want to overstep and didn't know what I wanted her to do. But when I gave her specific tasks like, "Could you please fold that basket of laundry while I feed the baby?" she would do it half-heartedly while sighing loudly, as if I was imposing on her vacation. The real reason I'm rant-typing all of this isn't even because of her lack of help. It is her lack of emotional support. Today I was told that my husband's deployment is extended by another 2 months. He was supposed to be home when our son is around 4 months old, but now it will be closer to 6 months. When I got the news, I was devastated. I was sobbing. What did my mother do? She said, "I'm sorry. That's it." I haven't gotten a single hug from her during this entire visit. Not even when I received this heartbreaking news. I got this news 4 hours ago. What I did get was her telling me to go take a shower, which was really code for "go shower so I can cuddle the baby because you won't be able to." She couldn't even pretend to care about how I was feeling for 5 minutes before making it about what she wanted again. When I came back from my shower, which I took quickly because I didn't actually trust her with the baby for long, she was showing him pictures of herself on her phone and telling him, "That's your favorite grandma." I wanted to scream. My ML has been more of a mother to me in the past months than my own mom has been in years. But sure, she's the favorite grandma. I feel so angry, disappointed, and ashamed that I spent money on her coming out here. The flights weren't cheap, and with a new baby, we're trying to be careful with our finances since I'm on unpaid maternity leave. I guess it's not a total loss because this stay has helped me not put on rose-colored glasses like I normally do when it comes to her. 2 more days and she's gone. Then it's back to me and the baby on our own until my husband can come home. I don't even know what I'm asking for at this point. I guess I just needed to vent. I feel like I'm mourning the mother I wish I had while dealing with the mother I actually have. It's exhausting. My husband thinks I should limit contact again after this visit, and I'm starting to think he's right. Sorry for the novel. Like I said, it's 3 a.m., and apparently that's when all my feelings come out. If there's anything I've learned from this whole experience, it's that family isn't just about blood relation. My MIL showed me what motherly support actually looks like, and I'm grateful for that, even if it makes me sad that I don't get it from my own mother. Now on to the next story. Story 5. My mother-in-law called me ugly, disowned my husband, and moved his ex-wife into her house. When she died of cancer, she refused to see him one last time and left all her money to his ex. 2 years ago, my mother-in-law, Pamela, 52F, disowned my husband, 29M, because of his marriage to me, 26F. A few days ago, she passed away from cancer. We have been together for 4 years, married for 2, and my mother-in-law, Pamela, had never approved of me. Right from the first time that we had met, she had been very cold and very rude. I had never been treated like that before by anyone, and my husband was very apologetic about her behavior. But even after a lot of confrontations and discussions with her, he was not able to find out the real reason why she didn't like me. She just kept insisting that I was not a good fit for the family, and it was very frustrating for my husband and very hurtful for me. He couldn't cut her out of his life completely because his father had passed away when he was very little, and she had raised him completely on her own. So, of course, he was very grateful to her. But even then, after he started dating, he kind of distanced himself from her when she made it clear that she was not going to be accepting me anytime soon. After 2 years of dating, we decided to elope and get married as a spur-of-the-moment decision on our 2nd anniversary. When we came back and told our family so we could have a proper wedding, my family was very happy. But Pamela lost her mind. She told him that she never wanted to see him again, said that she had had enough of this, and finally we got to the bottom of why she didn't like me. Basically, she believed that her son deserved better and shouldn't have married somebody as ugly as me. She was embarrassed of having me for a daughter-in-law because it wasn't like I was a sight to behold appearance-wise, and neither was I particularly accomplished to make up for it. For context, I had been diagnosed with PCOS and Cushing's syndrome 6 years ago, which means that I've had to make a lot of lifestyle changes. But even then, I struggle with my weight occasionally, and on top of that, I have a really weird-looking buffalo hump at the back of my neck, courtesy of my Cushing's syndrome. But I don't let these things bother me. I know that as long as I'm trying to stay healthy, it'll all work out fine. Unfortunately, according to Pamela, I am hideously deformed, and that's why she never liked me. Obviously, my husband had a huge fight with her about that because she said these horrible things right to my face and made me cry the day that we told her about the fact that we had eloped. But she didn't care. She just told him that she didn't want to see either of us ever again and told him that she was disowning him for as long as he stayed married to me. After that, my husband walked out with me and hasn't looked back. She wasn't invited to the wedding either, and for the past 2 years, we have barely had any contact with her. Because not only did she call me ugly and disown him, but a couple of months after we got married, she ended up moving his ex-wife into the house with her. My husband had been married before for about a year when he was around 21 or maybe 22. He and his college girlfriend got married right after they graduated, after being together for 2 years. But that marriage ended in divorce because she wanted to stop looking for jobs and stay at home. At the time, my husband couldn't afford to let her do that, and if they wanted to afford the lifestyle that she wanted, she would have had to work too. That gave way to a lot of differences between the two of them, and they ended up filing for divorce just a couple of weeks after their first anniversary. Since then, they hadn't kept in touch, but Pamela had remained close to his ex, Daisy. He didn't even know that they had stayed in touch until Pamela sent him an email 5 months after we got married, saying that now that the two of us were officially together in everybody's eyes, she wanted nothing to do with him anymore. She had been deeply upset by the fact that even though she didn't approve of me, he had still gone and married me. But it was fine because she had spoken to Daisy, and now she had decided to move in with Pamela to keep her company. From the email, we made out that Daisy had offered to move in with her after hearing what had gone down with us. She had told Pamela that she was going to her and staying with her to keep her company, and was making it out to be some huge sacrifice that she was making for the sake of her ex-mother-in-law. But my husband and I both knew that she was doing this because she didn't like working, and she knew that as long as she was staying with Pamela, she would be taken care of. Since, in spite of being a single mother, she had done pretty well in her career and was still working, Daisy didn't have anything to worry about financially. To put it in a few words, Pamela was getting played for a fool, but she thought that Daisy was coming to her rescue and was going to be the daughter that she never had. And these are actually her words in her email. She literally said that Daisy was the daughter that she never had, confessed that she had never even wanted a son, and had wanted a daughter just like herself. So she was actually much happier with Daisy in her life, and that upset my husband a lot, but he still never replied to that email. I was always aware of the fact that Pamela really liked Daisy and thought of her as a younger version of herself, simply because they were both blonde and were interested in modeling when they were in college. That's pretty much where the similarities end, but Pamela had projected herself onto her and had always liked her a lot. She often even brought her up to compare to me to make me feel bad about myself. But nobody had ever thought that she would actually choose Daisy over her own son. But that's what happened, and after that email, they never spoke again. Now, fast forward to 3 months ago. My husband started receiving phone calls and messages from an unknown number. He didn't accept the calls, but he did read the messages saying that his mother was really sick and had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a couple of months ago, and she wanted to see him. But my husband thought that somebody was playing a prank on him, so he ignored it at first and blocked the number. Then finally, one day, he started receiving calls from another number, so he finally picked up, and it was Daisy on the other line. She tried to talk to him, but he told her that he was not interested and hung up. After that, she didn't try to contact him again, and my husband never even told me about this until recently. The reason this was brought up was because a couple of days ago, we received an email from Daisy saying that his mother had passed away in her sleep after a particularly bad and painful day in the hospital. In the past few months, after my husband had rejected his mother's last wishes to see him, she had grown increasingly upset and angry and wrote him out of her will officially, something she hadn't done until recently, although she had declared that she was disowning him publicly. And she had specifically asked Daisy not to inform him when things got worse because she didn't want him to get the opportunity to see her ever again while she was alive. But now that she was gone, Daisy thought that it was finally appropriate to let him know. According to his mom's last wishes, the funeral is in 9 days from now. Of course, my husband ended up crying when he realized that his mom had passed away without even seeing him one last time, and I did comfort him because in spite of their differences, this is the same woman who had raised him all on her own. So of course it's going to be hard on him. But in the past few years, I've also learned that she's not exactly perfect, and even apart from the whole thing with me and Daisy, there were a lot of other things that were very problematic about her. But I don't want to get into that right now. Anyway, my point is that I comforted my husband, but when he said that as part of everything that had happened, he just didn't think that he wanted to attend the funeral, I told him that it was not necessary for him to do so if he didn't feel like it. Because a lot of time had passed, and rather than be fake and pretentious, I think it would be better to just sit it out. My parents don't agree, though, and they think that I'm being selfish and unreasonable, and that I should be convincing him to attend his mom's funeral if I actually cared about him. The thing is, I do care about him, and that's why I don't think that I should pressure him into doing something that he doesn't want to, and he has made it clear that he doesn't want to go. But at the end of the day, it is his mom and it is her funeral, so it's a pretty big deal if he doesn't go. And I'm afraid that I might be making a mistake here by encouraging him. Am I the asshole for telling my husband that it's fine if he doesn't attend his mom's funeral? Edit. Okay, so the other stuff that I was talking about, I didn't bring it up in the post because it was not exactly relevant to the whole situation with me or the situation with Daisy. It's just stuff from the past, but I guess it'll still help come to a conclusion. So the thing is, even though Pamela raised him completely by herself with a little help from his grandparents, she was also not exactly the best kind of parent to have. I can understand that as a single mother, things must have been tough for her, and maybe she thought that it was necessary for her to be a disciplinarian so she would be taken seriously at home. But somehow, instead of scaring him in a disciplinarian kind of way, she was just generally scary. From whatever my husband has told me, she had serious anger issues, and she would lash out at him over the smallest of things, sometimes even getting physical. And this continued till he was in high school, and then hours later, she would pretend like nothing had even happened, as she couldn't even remember that she had said or done anything. On top of that, while trying to make sure that he was disciplined and academically focused, she pretty much ended up making sure that he didn't do anything at all. He was not allowed to go over to his friends' places after school or invite them over. He was not allowed to go to parties or even to date. Of course, he still did all this secretly, but it was just really difficult for him because while other kids were allowed to do all this by their parents, his mother simply wouldn't have it. And that's why he had to put in so much effort just to hide normal stuff. I'm not an authority figure when it comes to parenting because I don't have any kids of my own, but I'm pretty sure that she really messed him up, and her behavior as a parent was less than ideal. Even after he grew up, she continued wanting to control him. So I can understand why he ended up distancing himself from her so much when he finally got the opportunity to do so. He had only stayed in touch with her out of respect for everything that she had done for him as a mother. But then, after she insulted me, I guess he finally realized that, in spite of everything, she was never going to be able to respect him as an individual, and that's why he cut her off. That's why he doesn't want to attend the funeral, because her entire family is going to be there, and he just doesn't want a bunch of crap from people who hardly even know him telling him how disappointed his mother had been without knowing the full facts, especially when he's struggling internally as well. And I feel like he has his reasons, so it's not necessary for him to be present there. Update 1. Thank you everyone for all the comments. I've spoken to my parents, and I've told them that at the end of the day, it's my husband's decision whether he wants to be there at Pamela's funeral or not, and I'm not going to force him to do anything that he doesn't feel comfortable doing, especially considering the fact that he has lost his mother and he's already feeling pretty weird and conflicted about everything that he's going through. The last thing that he needs is me pressuring him to do something he doesn't want to. He just needs to be comforted and taken care of at the moment. He and his mother had a complex relationship, and I didn't tell my parents everything because honestly, it's none of their business. But I told them that it's not like he doesn't feel bad. It's just that he has his personal reasons, and they need to respect it. But they told me that I was being unreasonable, and it was a huge sign of disrespect to not be present at his mom's funeral. And then, for some reason, they started taking it personally, saying that kids nowadays are really ungrateful and can't think about anybody apart from themselves. They always want to take the easy way out, and apparently our generation is really egoistic and selfish, blah blah blah, the same crap that other people say, and I don't have any patience for that. So I told them that they don't know anything about his situation or his reasons, and not everybody has a healthy relationship with their parents, so they need to cut it out. I was furious that they were even arguing with me about this because I know my husband a lot better than they do, and it was really annoying that they were pretending that this was a generation-specific problem when it was really just a very specific personal issue. Anyway, long story short, I got into a fight with my parents over this, and for the past couple of days we haven't been speaking to each other. I really don't understand why they are so stubborn about this because at the end of the day, this is between my husband and his mother. They don't have anything to do with it. In fact, they didn't even know Pamela that well. They had probably met her just a handful of times, and even then, they hadn't gotten along well with her because they had seen the way she treated me. I don't understand why they are taking it so personally, as if my husband and I have refused to attend an event that they are hosting or something. I haven't told my husband about the fight with my parents because honestly, he has enough on his plate right now. He doesn't need to know about my troubles as well. Ever since he read the email, he's become a lot more quiet and withdrawn, and I can totally understand that he's going through something. So if I tell him about whatever my parents are saying right now, I'm sure that it's going to make him feel even worse. For a while, I was feeling anxious that my parents might end up contacting him directly, so I decided to mute all notifications from them on his phone for his own good. He doesn't know about it. I'm going to tell him later, but I just don't want my parents to be bothering him at this time. It was probably the single most sneaky thing that I've ever done. Even though we know each other's passwords, we have never snooped or gone through each other's phones. So this is the first time that I've ever done that, and I'm not sure how he might react to that when I tell him. But the only thing that I'm sure of is that I'm doing this for his own good, and I'm hoping that that's enough. Apart from that, I've also been feeling very weird about the whole situation because even though I never liked Pamela because of the way she treated me, it's still very strange to think that she's gone and we'll never see her again. It makes me feel very uneasy every time I think about it, so I've been trying to keep myself distracted. Overall, this is just a very difficult and weird time for our family. I'm just hoping that the time passes soon and this blows over quickly because I can't bear to keep feeling like this continuously all the time any longer. Now it's really suffocating. Anyway, that's it for me for now. Thank you. Update 2. It has been 5 days since my last update, and for the past couple of days, my parents and I have had absolutely no contact since the fight that we had over the phone. I also kept checking my husband's phone periodically to delete any messages that my parents might have sent him, but luckily, they hadn't tried to call or text him. I was just beginning to ease up about the whole thing, but then yesterday in the afternoon, I received a call from my husband at work, and he told me that he had received an email from a new address, but after reading it, he had realized that it was from my parents. I instantly knew that it was not going to be good news, and it wasn't. He went on to tell me that his parents had written 2 whole paragraphs criticizing him for his decision and also saying how selfish and unreasonable it is for me to be supporting him. They have called him an escapist and a coward for refusing to attend his mother's funeral just because he's afraid of what people from her family might say, which they have every right to say because he cut his mother out of his life and refused to see her even when she was sick. Instead of facing all that criticism and accepting it, he's running away from it at the cost of seeing his mother one last time and paying his last respects. And apparently, according to my parents, it's despicable. My decision to support him in this is also no less despicable. And finally, they said that maybe Pamela did the right thing by disowning us because clearly, we don't really care about our parents. The email was really mean and completely unnecessary because this is not their place to be saying anything. They don't know the whole truth, and they don't need to be lecturing him about what's right and what's wrong. My parents always have had a tendency to speak out of turn, believing that they know the best, but they've mostly always kept it restricted to me and maybe a few other people from the family. They have never tried to speak where it's not their place outside of our family, especially with my husband. This is a first, but this is enough. I was very upset that they had gone out of their way to create a new email address, one that they knew hadn't been blocked or muted by me, and sent him that email. The fact that they had created a new one just goes to show that this was a very well thought out act that they had done, knowing that it would bother me a lot. They knew that I had probably blocked their numbers and other ways to contact us, so they had gone out of their way to do this, and I just don't understand why they are so convinced that they are right. They don't even know the whole situation. I was obviously furious when my husband told me about it, and I had every intention of calling my parents up then and there and giving them a piece of my mind. But my husband told me to just let it go. It's not like he didn't care or wasn't upset about it. He was, but he was just so resigned to the situation that he didn't even think that it was necessary to say anything. The funeral is just 2 days away now, and he has already made up his mind that he is not going to be attending. It's not going to be easy for him either, but he has already decided something for himself, and he doesn't think that he needs to defend his decision to anybody who doesn't know anything about his life, how he grew up, and his relationship with his mother. Even if it's my parents, he doesn't think that he needs to dignify it with a response, and the best thing that we can do right now is just completely ignore them. After that, I told him about how they had been getting on my nerves in the beginning, how we had a huge fight about this, and how I went through his phone and muted them so he wouldn't have to suffer the same thing. He just laughed and told me that he was really grateful to have a wife who goes through his phone not out of suspicion but out of concern for him. He also told me that he was really happy that I had chosen to defend him to my parents and even get into a fight with them to the extent where I was ready not to talk to them all for his sake. But he also told me that since he had lost both his parents, he wouldn't mind if I continued to talk to them. But after this, there was no chance that I was going to speak to them unless they apologized to him for saying whatever they did. These were really terrible things that they said to him without knowing anything about his life properly, and they have no right to judge him without knowing things. In fact, let me just rephrase that. They have no right to judge him, period. That email was not only disrespectful to him, it was also disrespectful to me because I feel like since I'm their daughter, they should have just trusted my judgment. Of course, I'm not some evil goblin bent on making sure that he doesn't attend his mom's funeral. Of course, if I'm supporting him, there must be some reason. But they can't bring themselves to believe that. They just want to prove that they are right, and so they will do anything it takes to make us feel bad about it. So be it then. I don't want to talk to them anymore, and I'm definitely not going to interact with them any further until and unless they apologize to my husband for whatever they said in that email, because they have crossed a line that should not have been crossed, and I'm not going to allow them to get away with that. Update 3. Hi. So it's been 2 days since my last update, and today the funeral was held. Right from the morning, my husband was acting very strangely and was very quiet, and I knew exactly why. Thankfully, it's a Saturday, so we didn't have work today, and we stayed at home. To keep his mind off of things, I decided to watch a movie with him instead of finishing up our work in the mornings to get ahead of the next week like we usually do. He was kind of fidgety and distracted the entire time, but at least he sat through the entire movie with me before he checked his email. And sure enough, around 4 in the evening, he saw that he had received an email from Daisy saying that she was very disappointed that he hadn't even bothered to show up for his mom's funeral and that she had had to do everything. She told him that a lot of people had been asking about him, and everyone had been very disappointed and shocked that he didn't even bother to attend. My husband ended up crying for quite a while, and I sat there and comforted him. In the end, he asked me if he had done the right thing or not, but I just told him that now it had already been done, and it was not necessary for him to constantly keep thinking about it. He did what he believed was right, and if he wants to, he can go pray about it in church this Sunday to make him feel better. But other than that, there is no point in constantly beating himself up about it. I also told him not to feel bad about the fact that Daisy was the one who had organized everything, especially given the fact that she was the one who had been staying with Pamela for the past 2 years. She is the one set to inherit everything that Pamela has left, so I think it's fair enough that she's the one who had to organize everything because clearly Pamela always liked her better, as she herself had mentioned in the email that she had sent us 2 years ago. After he and I had that discussion, he started to seem slightly better, and we went out for dinner to a nearby restaurant to keep his mind off of things. I'm typing this out in bed right now. He's asleep beside me, and I'm not sure if I was able to help him out or not, but at least I tried my best, and that's all that I can say. Update 4. Hi. So it's been a couple of weeks since my last update. My husband has started therapy, and he's doing better now, at least emotionally. I haven't been on speaking terms with my parents for a really long time, and I don't intend on speaking to them unless they apologize, which I don't think they're going to do. But it's fine. My husband and I are used to distancing ourselves from our parents, first from his mother and now from my parents. It's kind of disappointing, but there's nothing much that I can do about it. Anyway, I'm just happy that my husband and I are doing well, and even though I still find him occasionally going through old photos of him with his mom, I know that he has accepted the fact that she's gone, the good and the bad. If he regrets his decision not to attend the funeral, he never lets me know about it, and I try not to ask about it too much either because I know that it probably hurts him to talk about it. If he wants to, I'm always here for him, but I'm going to let him decide when he wants to talk about it. Right now, as for Daisy, even though we had blocked her, she sent us another email a couple of days ago saying that Pamela had left everything to her, and she hoped that he wouldn't contest the will because she really needs this right now. That was it. She didn't say anything else, and I don't think that my husband is going to be contesting the will either. That's probably the last thing on his mind right now, and in all honesty, I don't mind the fact that Daisy is going to have everything that Pamela left. She can keep it. I don't think either of us is going to be particularly affected by any of that. Anyway, we are working on things slowly but steadily, and I hope that someday my husband is going to be fine with everything that worked out in his favor and everything that didn't, and I'm going to be by his side always. Now on to the next story. Story 6. I am 43, worked hard with 2 jobs from home to support my wife, F38, and also hired a nanny, but she said no woman would ever want me at Father's Day dinner, so I served her with divorce papers. I try to do my best to provide for my wife and 2 kids, 3, 5, as well as my mother-in-law, and would like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I've worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's and recently a master's in a STEM-related degree, but I, at the same time, worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree where she could make good money, 60-70K/year, in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. But with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump up, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich, but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little north of 150K base, plus bonuses. The past year, life was overwhelming for my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with one child while the other is in school. Now, my day starts every day around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny comes at 8 a.m. I get our oldest up and ready for school, breakfast made, and plan out my day, then bring our oldest to drop off and be home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% work from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role manages teams on a global scale as I oversee projects for my industry. For the past 1.5 months, I've realized my wife, as much as she says her life is stressful at home, starts at 10 a.m. I asked my mother-in-law and nanny if this was always the case after a week or so of working from home, and they both responded more or less, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up and cooks, and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I am glad I am able to provide her that sort of life, since we both grew up lacking in means. I get the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, the fact that I probably am a shitty husband, but for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the house's finances. She claimed she was too busy to do so. Pay all the household bills. I pay my own personal bills. I pay her bills, track and perform all the upkeep of our house/appliances/cars/pets/etc. And I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently, my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't decompress to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse. 'Cause I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, which is nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc. But when I reminded her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has brought me aside and stated she's noticed a change in both myself and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids, and hell, I've hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I am in emotional survival mode as I'm one step from moving up the career ladder and one step away from finding love and comfort from the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize, aside from my kids, appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single-parent/mother household. It's not easy. And honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday to Friday for one toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. Thank you for the replies. To add more context, 1. I've never cheated. I do work in an industry that has a large female population, but I'm literally an open book with work, name, colleagues, and staff under me. She has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop. But on that note, she still doesn't know what exactly I do for a living at this time. 2. We, as a whole family, her parents and mine, have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. 3. Aside from my coming from a single mother household, per se, my biological dad was present in my life. She has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. 4. I have tried to talk to her about everything and my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. 5. What I am getting out of the marriage was asked. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent sex life, mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough or just horrible in bed. Because of my health conditions, I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity does knock, and I can perform still. But I never give in because, as cliché as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to only be with her. 6. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, kids, mother-in-law, and even nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small, simple breakfast in case they don't like what school serves that morning. She does load both the kids and her laundry, but seldomly folds and puts them up. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge, but after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything, if not delivered. She does clean our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50% is done by either mother-in-law or myself, or sometimes the nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. 7. Prior to the nanny, my mother-in-law was the main help for my wife up until she had unexpected medical needs, so I opted to hire a nanny to help them both, more so when mother-in-law is having treatments and recovering. Update 1. Not sure if anyone would read this, but thank you for those who have reached out and chit-chat. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it and all the comments. Long story short, argument. She left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments nonetheless. Thank you for the comments and DMs, and more so for the offers to let me ruin your life. It's been the highlight of my day/night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I feel that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. Update 2. First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs. Some context and clarification, since admittedly my post was emotionally charged, as I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kids' pediatrician office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms. And during the time of both, she scored pretty high and was suggested to see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher and we, or I should say I, made an effort to get her the help she needs. She refused, so entered mother-in-law and nanny for support. I know what people will say/think, but this is one of the reasons I am not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run of our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first, but that pain goes away. But I'd rather try to spare my kids thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few people I talked to in DM since my last post a little more insight on my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit, I planned for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if, sadly, things went south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer, 3 actually, to know our rights and what each of us are entitled to, and have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up. So while I am venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the normalcy for our kids, ensure my mother-in-law's treatments go uninterrupted, and of course, the hope my wife would finally be open to give therapy a shot and climb together to a better place. Thank you all again. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check up via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I made a follow-up from the update I made on my original post during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending/destroying of a relationship people were hoping for. To save you a read, wife left, came back like nothing happened. She made it about her. Nothing's changed. I'm continuing to be suffering mentally knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. Lots of takeout. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only was it not fair to our kids for her to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but to put that financial and housing stress on the rest of her family, since she doesn't work and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, stays with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided that it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags as if she just came back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off, as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her, because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. Mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her to not bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night, after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I've been doing for the past nights, and my wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another, and we were in bed. I wish I could say it was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we laid there, she went on about how hard it was for her the time she was gone. Literally, it was about her struggles staying at her family's house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that and buy this or do that and not stress as much as they did. How easy my and everyone else's in our family lives are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then. In this last week, I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Wife. Well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. Me. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, it, get over it. Right? Wife. We all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with her. I've been sleeping in my office or on the couch or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m. and sitting on her phone talking to her mom groups between cooking meals with the kids in both mother-in-law and nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt that anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway, since during my wife's leaving, the day seemed like any other day, except with a little more takeout than usual. My main fear there isn't that I wouldn't just lose my wife, I'd lose my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say the grand finale to my story, like a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. Update 3. I'm done. Wife said I don't do anything and I'm not in front of the therapist and family Father's Day dinner. She got served. She's mad. She is trying to act perfect. And I'm just waiting while taking care of my family, kids, my mom, and mother-in-law. Oh well, I'll just ruin everyone else's life too. And my family. Secondly, to clear some confusion, I did not get 2 bachelor's and a master's while working 2 jobs at the same time, as some readers are assuming. Bachelor's number 1 graduated in the early 2000s. Bachelor's number 2 via online, 2 classes a semester, later while working 2 full-time jobs. Job number 1. Hospital, 36 to 48 schedule. Job number 2. Big box store, 32 to 40 hours spread out 7 days a week. to pay for both my and my wife's tuition because she decided to go back to school before we had kids. After graduating from bachelor's number 2 and entering the industry I am in now, I was able to work one job and get my master's. So no, I did not get 3 degrees at the same time or in that close succession, and I am surprised that I actually have to spell this out, as someone working 2 jobs while going to school isn't that uncommon, or at least that's what I thought. My wife chooses not to work. She does technically have a job. She just barely works it to the point we forget she has a job. As in, she worked one day 4 to 5 months ago for 8 hours on a Tuesday, kind of barely works her job. Her manager is really supportive, flex PRN model, and gives her a list of days they need coverage, and she can choose to pick up a shift or not. While she can work more and only does just enough to keep up her license, she complains to our family of her career being on hold for one reason or the other, although she has the opportunity to work more if she opted to. All things considered, she has an available, supportive circle around her for either decision she falls on. Our family, her job, and I have made multiple offers and taken many steps to open that door for her to go back to work, i.e. nanny, mother-in-law moved in to help, I work from home, her crazy flex PRN schedule, etc., etc. But here we are. I am and have been in therapy for myself already. Aside from what I deal with at home, my work can be very debilitating in regard to my mental health, as well as physical at times. Since I can't find the support I need mentally and physically at home with my wife, I've opted to attend therapy rather than find comfort with someone outside of the home or at the bottom of a bottle. I've tried to express this to my wife, and as mentioned in my previous post, she has a habit of one-upping me, and here we are. My in-laws are still married. Given the circumstances in our home, my mother-in-law moved in to help out my wife, while my sister-in-law and her family moved back into their parents' house due to their own reasons. Sister-in-law and her family can save money while getting back on their feet, and my wife and I benefit from mother-in-law's help, and we can keep a closer eye on her while she undergoes bi-monthly treatments. My wife, by means of questionnaires, is highly suspected to have PPD, alongside with a history of symptomatic OCD, ADHD, amongst other ailments that over the years she refused to get evaluated for or refused to accept results given. I knew what I was getting into, and I love and accepted my wife for these flaws, as she did mine at the time. Spare me the, I don't feel sorry for you or pity. I am like every other man who fell in love and wanted to give my person the best of me and the world I can offer. But again, here we are. There's a lot of manly men, red pill nation, guys out there complaining and saying I'm simping over my wife. While I respect your own opinions and perspectives, I will outright say if this situation was only affecting my life, I would have left a long time ago. As one Redditor said in a past comment that stuck to me, I am the kind of person that will take a bullet for his kids. Maybe it's in a different context intended, but to protect my children from any harm, physically or mentally, I'll take the proverbial bullet if and when it's needed. I'd like to think other dads out there would respond to the duty to protect their children, and that's why I've endured as much as I have for the time being. I would rather my wife use me as an outlet for whatever her problems were versus our kids. Thank you all for the comments and reaching out. I've met many strangers who have become great Reddit pen pals, and some who have been in the know of every step that has been progressing to this point. I am surprised at how far this has gone from other subreddits, other platforms. Love me, hate me, say it's all fake. No matter where you stand, thank you for all the constructive comments and DMs to check in. Our kids and myself are going to be all right moving forward. Update 4. The end of an era. This will be shorter than some expected, as really, there's not much to say but just to satiate the questions some of you may have had and give people the satisfaction of the I told you so moment on Reddit. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my wife and I finally attempted to go to marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went. Blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting with a side of, I am the reason for her life being ruined and horrible. Again, just this time in front of a licensed therapist instead of Redditor mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over her head and ignored, as it was against the grain of her status quo. One thing I guess worth saying was the therapist asked if she could recall when she last truly felt happy. Her response was about 12 or so years ago. Please note, 12 years ago, she was still in her 20s, childless, living with her ex, a vastly different time and position in life. I know it's petty of me, but I guess if that's when she was last happy, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch for her to find that happiness again, since her ex is in the same apartment, job, and place in life that he was 12 years ago, which is fine if that's how you want to live life. I try not to judge, but in my 40s with kids, going clubbing 3 to 4 days a week is not my jam anymore. And of course, I don't want my kids around a mom and company who drowns themselves in White Claws. To add, I know some will ask. I know and can confirm she hasn't physically cheated on me, but can't confirm if she did emotionally, if that's the right term. After said therapy session, I checked all her phone records and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but I also didn't bother to check apps like Instagram or Snapchat. I know I'm probably boring, but shout out to all the Costco dads whose Sunday fun day includes making rounds with kids for samples. The following weekend was Father's Day, and this year, as expected, not that big of a celebration as it is for many dads out there. Our family got together to celebrate with a barbecue and just simple family time. And my wife treated it like any other day. Sleep in, get up, cook, phone, shop, attempt to play with kids, phone. During said family barbecue, my wife said she felt ill, so she sat around most of the day while the rest of the family as a whole made the experience enjoyable. When everything was set up and the family all sat at the table, her parents and sister's family, my mother, our kids. Admittedly, it was a great spread, nothing extravagant, but just a great meal for everyone. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about both of our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assumed my wife overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sit alone without their fathers during the breakfast with dad event I attended. She blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear, "It's not like you do anything anyway. I could have gone instead." At that moment, I was red and at a loss for words, sitting there processing what she said in my head, while the dining room went dead silent. My mother-in-law broke the awkwardness and in response said, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." My wife looked at my mother-in-law, confused that she would respond with that, and laughed mockingly in my direction and with her hand pointing at me said, "As if another woman would want a man like him. Just look at you." While the room sat silent, I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In manly man fashion, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up, and picked up my keys and got in my truck and drove off to get a drink while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house the rest of Sunday because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras. But when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6 o'clock, got the house and our oldest ready for school drop-off, checked emails, checked messages, nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my wife laid in our bed snoring lightly. All I could do was look at her and think of what we had and now lost. I've decided I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving her. Fast forward to last week. She was served at our home. Reminder to people I had no choice but to be there because I work from home. She had, I guess what you could call, a mini meltdown and came into my office screaming, "How could I do this to her?" Her mother intervened, and that was met with me supposedly turning her whole family against her. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it wasn't immediately followed by the rest of her weak acting, as if she's been this active and attentive wife and mother the past few years. Sure, people can say she's making an attempt, but she's made many attempts, and historically we fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. I already and will continue to cover all the expenses for our kids, insurance, tuition. Both of our kids are/will be attending private schools come fall, medical bills, etc. My mother-in-law has given me the courage and strength that helped supplement my own mother's support throughout this. Basically, she is what I hope the kind of mother/wife my wife would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my mother-in-law, as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial help if needed during her treatments. While some may feel I should cut their whole family off, I know the hardships pushed onto a family while dealing with cancer, and have dealt with it firsthand as a family member and care provider on both sides of the desk. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean, no-fuss divorce. My wife has no alimony coming. So sorry for the Redditors and Mommy Gang Facebook group saying she needs to divorce me first and get that sweet, sweet alimony money. 1. We live in a state that does not typically enforce alimony. 2. She has a means of gainful employment immediately. 3. To help curb any possible problems, I will cover her insurance and bills until either divorce is finalized or when she gains full employment. So that's that. I'm done and waiting for the steps to be taken for everything to be finalized. Sorry it wasn't as exciting of a story with plot twists as some may have hoped for, but that's life. Not sure I'll update this once it's all finalized, which probably won't be for a few more months, depending if we go to war or not. Now on to the next story. Story 7. I hired a private detective to check on my sister after my nephew got kicked out of school and told me his mom was never home. Turns out the reason was far worse. I'm in a very confusing situation right now, so please bear with me if I end up being a little all over the place. I really can't help it. So, this is mostly about me, 38F, and my sister, Jennifer. My sister is 4 years younger than me, and we have always had a good relationship. Growing up, we were pretty close, but then life happened. We still stayed in touch, but after she started dating her boyfriend in college and got married to him at 22, I started seeing less of her. I was obviously very happy for her, and I was even more thrilled when I found out that she was having a baby. 8 years back, she gave birth to my nephew, Anthony, and everyone just loves him to bits, me included. Personally, I never got married or had kids because it was just not my cup of tea, but for Anthony, I would do whatever it took to ensure that he had a good life. So, when 2 years back Jennifer's husband passed away in a car crash, everyone stood by her side. I decided that I was going to take care of the finances for her. She had quit her job after Anthony was born, so all she had were some savings that she and Anthony had put aside, whatever he had left behind, and of course the survivor's benefits. But given the lifestyle that they had had so far, they definitely needed the extra help. And so, I decided that I was going to write her a big, fat paycheck every month, just until she got a job. It has been 2 years now, and she does have a job, but I'm still writing her those checks because she told me that the only work that she could find was in sales, and since it's mostly commission, it will be difficult to maintain the lifestyle that she and her son are used to just on that. So, until she finds something more sustainable, she wants me to keep helping out, and I really don't have an issue with that. After all, they are my family, and if it's for Anthony, I don't really mind. So, naturally, I had been sending paychecks to her every month as usual, and part of that was also supposed to be used to clear the tuition cost. I believe that it would be disrespectful to his father's memory to change schools, so I insisted that he continue to go to public school, and since I was paying for it, I didn't see anything wrong with it. Recently, though, I found out from Anthony that he had been kicked out of school and hadn't been going for the past couple of weeks because apparently Jennifer had missed out on paying his tuition for the past couple of months, and she had been issued several warnings and reminders but hadn't paid heed to any, which is why the school authorities had to take that measure. I found out about it purely by accident when I was babysitting Anthony about a month ago. At the time, I hadn't been seeing much of him because every time I tried to visit Jennifer, she would delay it or postpone it somehow. She always seemed to be either too busy at work or seeing other friends. She always had some excuse ready. But then one day, she herself asked me to come over and babysit Anthony because her usual babysitter hadn't shown up since she was sick, and she couldn't cancel her plans for the evening. When I asked her about her plans, she didn't tell me anything. She just said that it was important because it had something to do with a client at work, and then she left as soon as I showed up at her doorstep. Her behavior had been totally bizarre recently, especially in the few months leading up to that incident. We would try and make it a point to meet each other every now and then, but since the beginning of this year, she had started behaving very strangely, and now we would only meet for dinner at our parents' place, but never otherwise. Even when we would meet each other, she would constantly act very jittery and weird and try to get back home as quickly as she could. So, naturally, that had cut into the time that I spent with Anthony, and we were not seeing much of each other. I knew that he was not happy about it because he had already lost his father. He didn't want to lose his relationship with me as well, and would often text me from his mother's phone. Last month, when I showed up at his house to babysit him, he waited for his mother to leave, and then he started telling me everything that was going on. When he mentioned that just earlier that week he had been kicked out of school for the non-payment of tuition costs and that his mother had given him strict instructions not to talk about it to anybody, I started to realize that something very fishy was going on. Anthony also told me a lot of other things, like his mother would hardly ever be at home, and for the past couple of months, he had probably spent more time with his babysitter than with anybody else. Things had come to a point where she even had a backup babysitter, and she would alternate between the two in case one was not available. But the one thing that she wouldn't do was cancel her plans, and more often than not, Anthony wouldn't even see her for more than a day because she would come back after his bedtime and she would leave before he woke up the next day. I was shocked that all this was happening, and the more that Anthony talked about his mother, the more I realized that something was very off about the whole situation. The reason I hadn't found out about any of this was because every time Anthony would meet me, Jennifer would be right there with him, and his mom had told him not to speak to me about any of this. She had actually even intimidated him, and he had been scared to talk to me about any of this before. But then he got kicked out of school, and he felt like he had to talk to me about it because he was very upset about it since he didn't want to let go of his friends and his teachers. He told me that he didn't even get the chance to say goodbye because one day while he was preparing to go to school, his mother told him that there was no need to do so anymore because he had been kicked out and he was switching to public school. First off, it was strange enough that she had decided to tell her 8-year-old son that he had been kicked out of school because she hadn't cleared his tuition payments, and that, along with the rest of the things that Anthony had told me, led me to believe that there was something wrong with Jennifer. Of course, on top of that, there was also the fact that I had been writing her pretty significant paychecks for almost 2 years now, and she was also making good money on her own, so it didn't make sense for her not to pay her son's tuition for private school for so long that he ended up getting kicked out. I was very uncomfortable and annoyed after I got to know all this from Anthony, and of course, I promised him that I was going to fix everything because I could see that he was really unhappy. That day itself, I couldn't exactly do anything, and neither did I speak to Jennifer about whatever Anthony had told me when she came back home because, given the situation, I realized that it would probably be for the best if I dealt with it on my own without her knowledge. Since she had given Anthony strict instructions not to speak to me about any of this, I didn't want the poor kid to get into trouble, and that would inevitably happen if I confronted her about what I had heard. Instead, and you can judge me if you want, but I think it was necessary for me to do that, I decided to speak to a private detective and find out about all her comings and goings. Like I had said, I had found her entire behavior very fishy, and after speaking to Anthony, I was sure that she was up to no good. All that I needed was something to prove it, and within a couple of days I found out exactly what was going on. Unfortunately, it was not the kind of thing that you want to find out about your sister, especially when your sister happens to have an 8-year-old son. By speaking to the detective, we had figured out that she was definitely not going to her workplace anymore and had presumably quit her job. Instead, she would spend all her mornings at some motel and would come out in the evening. After that, she would go home for a couple of hours, usually just 2 or 3 hours, and then she would leave again so she could go to a club at night. The strange thing was, she wouldn't drink or anything at the club, and I can vouch for that because even when she came back home the night I had been babysitting, it was very obvious that she was still sober and was completely in her senses. It was all just really bizarre, and it took us a couple of more days to figure out who she was meeting. As it turns out, the same guy would leave the motel and the club exactly half an hour after she would leave, and it took the detective a while to pick up on that pattern. But when he did, he clicked some photos of him, got his name from the motel folks somehow, and we ran a background check. And unfortunately, as it turns out, that guy is a drug dealer. A hardcore one at that, because from what I know, he has already been arrested twice before in the span of the past 5 years and is currently out on bail. There were some minor news clippings of him online, so it wasn't hard to find out about him. Of course, that means that he's not exactly a desirable person to be around, and it freaked me out that she had been hanging out with him so much to the point where she was spending her entire day with him almost. I was also pretty sure that she was spending all the money on him, which is why she was running short and couldn't cover Anthony's tuition for the past few months. As soon as I found out about all of this, I decided that I was going to report her to CPS because even though she would come back home sober, there was no telling if that would still be the case in the next couple of months, and I didn't want to take that risk, especially for Anthony's sake. So, I did what I had to, but things have taken a turn for the worse with my family after I reported her. Because CPS believed that it would be better for Anthony to be placed in my custody, not as an emergency measure, obviously, but after around 2 weeks of me reporting her. Those 2 weeks after I reported her to CPS, I was not allowed to see Anthony at all because she obviously did not want me visiting. But then, eventually, after preliminary investigations, it was decided that Anthony had better stay with me for a while, and Jennifer can have supervised visits. But as of now, she is being investigated. Even though the custody arrangement is temporary and Jennifer still has a chance to regain custody if she just adjusts her lifestyle accordingly and, of course, stops hanging out with criminals. For some reason, my parents are blaming me for all of this. A couple of weeks ago, they literally called me up and started yelling at me, calling me heartless and saying that I was a pathetic human being for what I had done. They even went to the extent of calling me selfish and told me that I was not the only person who was worried about Anthony, but I was the only person doing such extreme things like hiring private detectives and reporting people to CPS, even when Jennifer hadn't even done anything that bad. I disagreed with them there. I told them that what Jennifer had done had clearly been bad enough for CPS to consider removing Anthony from her custody, and I was not going to be made to feel guilty about reporting her. Besides, she had not only neglected him emotionally, she had also been financially irresponsible, and Anthony himself had complained about everything to me, so that obviously meant that he was not happy with this situation. And then my parents started playing the victim card on Jennifer's behalf and started to talk about how she had been suffering mentally ever since she lost her husband. And the least I could have done for her was cut her some slack because it hasn't been a long time since she lost the love of her life. And of course, she's bound to make a few bad decisions. But that doesn't make her a bad mother. They told me that I should have spoken to her before reporting her at the very least, and I should have personally tried to get her to stop if I felt that she was doing something wrong, but instead went straight to the authorities and tattled about her. They believed that what I had done was pathetic and were constantly making me out to be the villain, and I felt terrible about it. I blocked them later on, but a couple of days ago, they sent me an email from a new address telling me that Jennifer was having a really difficult time coping with everything emotionally and mentally and had been having frequent breakdowns because of me. She hasn't spoken to me nor has she shown up to see Anthony either, so I didn't know how she was doing. But after that email from my parents, I feel really guilty, if I'm being honest. The only reason I hadn't spoken to her and tried to deal with the situation by myself before reporting her to CPS was because I thought that if I tried to talk to her, she would just get mad at me and forbid me from seeing Anthony, and that would make the situation even worse. And I didn't want to do that because I'm a generally non-confrontational person. But now I think that it was not the right thing to do, and I should have spoken to her before reporting her. I feel terrible about everything, but at the same time, I know that Anthony is happy at the very least. I've also spoken to his school authorities and managed to get them to agree to enroll him again after explaining the situation to them. He seems much happier right now, and even though he does ask about Jennifer, he doesn't seem to miss her much. So, I'm literally in two minds right now about whether I did the right thing or not. Am I the AITA for reporting my sister to CPS before speaking to her about her behavior? Update 1. Hi. Thank you so much for the words of encouragement, everyone. I really needed that because I was seriously beginning to doubt myself. I didn't think that I was doing the right thing, and I felt terrible about what my sister was going through. But honestly, going through the comments, I realized that this is what was necessary, and I don't need to feel bad for doing what I had to do. Besides, if I had actually spoken to her before reporting her, there was a chance that she might have gotten off scot-free and even managed to brainwash Anthony against me or something. The odds were not in my favor because, of course, Anthony does not stay with me. So, I don't need to regret what I did, and besides, if she has stayed sober throughout the relationship that she has had with this other guy, then she doesn't really need to worry because if she behaves well, she's going to get custody of Anthony eventually again. The one thing that is going to remain a fact, though, is that she did end up neglecting Anthony, and that was the only reason all of this had to happen. So, my parents can come up with any excuse that they want for her. It's not going to change the facts. I haven't responded to the email that they sent me that triggered me to post here in the first place, and I don't think that I have to either. They want to defend Jennifer. They are free to do that, but I'm also free to ignore them because honestly, I'm sick of being made out to be the villain just because I did what was right. And being in a bad mental state can be an explanation. It cannot be used as an excuse for what she has been up to. My brother-in-law was a good man, and I understand why she misses him because obviously, it's probably not easy for her to deal with the fact that she's lost the love of her life. But again, she cannot compromise her son's lifestyle because of this, at least not on my watch. and I'm going to make sure that she does not get custody of Anthony back again until she can completely cut herself out of this weird new world that she has been caught up in. As her sister, I feel bad for her. But as somebody who cares about Anthony, I could not have continued to let this happen, and if my parents don't understand that, then that's on them and not on me. Anyway, keeping that aside, I have kept in touch with the caseworkers and the officer in charge, and they have kept me in the loop about the entire situation. After finding out everything that I have, I think I'm even more glad that I made the decision that I did because apparently, even though she herself had been sober all along, she had been in the company of people who would definitely not be sober under any circumstances. The club that she frequently visited, I already knew that it was kind of a shady place from its appearance, but I had no idea most of the shady activities in this town take place there. And the group of people that she and her boyfriend used to hang out with frequently at that club were all into powdering their nose. If you know what I mean. And that's not all. There was also the intravenous stuff, and I don't want to get into the details, but you get the picture. She herself might have been clean, but that's not ideal company for anyone, let alone my sister, who's the mom of an 8-year-old. So naturally, she's going to have to extricate herself completely from that world. But so far, she has shown no interest in doing that. She has consistently been visiting her boyfriend, who has been placed in judicial custody and is awaiting trial because, unsurprisingly, he had been caught in possession just a few days after I reported Jennifer to CPS during a raid at his house. It's shocking that she has kept in touch with him, but hasn't bothered to show up at my house to meet her own son. I can't even recognize this person anymore, and it's crazy that my parents are actually going out of their way to defend her, knowing what she's up to. On top of that, by keeping in touch with this guy, she's reducing her own chances of getting custody of Anthony back again because it just goes to show that she values her boyfriend more than her own son. That's not a good look for anybody in the position that she is in right now, and I don't understand how she is ready to sacrifice everything just for this one guy. Needless to say, I've been pretty frustrated and confused for the past couple of weeks, and it's not getting any better, but talking about it here helps because I can't exactly talk about this to anybody else at the moment. It feels too personal, and I just can't bring myself to discuss it with my friends. So, thanks for hearing me out, you guys. Update 2. So, it's 1 week to go before our first permanent custody hearing, and finally, Jennifer decided that she was going to visit Anthony. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't seem like it's going to help because almost a month ago, Anthony had been removed from her custody, and since then, she had spent most of her time visiting her boyfriend in prison but couldn't find time to spare for her own son. By now, even I had given up any expectations that I had had from her in the beginning that she might turn out to be a good person eventually, but it's very obvious that Jennifer, whom I used to know and love, is far gone. Anyway, she showed up yesterday in the evening, and since it was supposed to be a supervised visit, I was there just for good measure. I decided to ask our CPS caseworker to be present there as well so she could be there to watch Jennifer interact with Anthony or whatever because if it came down to it, I did not want it to be just my testimony against her in court. Another reason that I wanted a third person there was because I believed that if it was just me and her, then she would definitely find a way to start fighting with me, and I did not want that to be happening in front of Anthony. I was also aware of the fact that in front of the CPS caseworker, Jennifer would have the common sense not to pick a fight with me. So, when she finally showed up, she seemed a little taken aback to see the caseworker present there as well but didn't say anything about it. Anthony was obviously thrilled to see his mother after so long, and they had a lot to talk about, and it was actually kind of heartwarming to see them together. But then I remembered that she hadn't been here to see him for almost a month because she was too busy with her boyfriend, and that made me upset once again. It sucked that she was choosing her boyfriend over her own son, but I couldn't do anything about it. Anyway, she was here for about 2 hours, and throughout, she just ignored my existence as well as the caseworkers and just played with Anthony. Even when she was leaving, she didn't even look at us, and I'm glad that she didn't because I wouldn't have known what to say to her if she did. I don't even think we have anything left to say to each other anymore, but I'm glad that she did get some time with Anthony before the trial begins and everything gets even uglier. Update 3. Hey everyone. I haven't been able to post lately because I've been very busy with work and the trial and stuff. My last update was about 2 months back, and we are still attending hearings and stuff since my sister is desperate to keep Anthony with her. But most people don't think that it's a very good idea, and given how complex the case is right now, Even the court is taking its own sweet time to come to a conclusion. But hopefully, in the next few weeks, we'll be able to figure out a solution that works for everyone. So far, Jennifer and her lawyer have done everything in their power to prove that she's not a bad parent, and the CPS caseworker and officer and even I have done everything in our power to prove that she might not be a bad parent in the most real sense of that word, but she's definitely not a competent parent right now, in my opinion. Honestly, being a bad or good parent doesn't really matter right now because what Anthony needs is a competent parent. He does not need somebody who is absent from his life for the most part, like she had been for the past few months, and he definitely doesn't need somebody who has been so financially irresponsible that she has blown all her savings, all her money on her boyfriend, and didn't even think about her son before doing any of that. She's been buying him expensive gifts, she's been paying for everything that he wants, and has even been covering his rent, groceries, and stuff. That plus her own lifestyle, you do the math. It's not surprising that she didn't have enough money left to cover her son's tuition costs anymore. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think it was a priority for her either. Apart from that, we don't exactly have any proof that she had been involved in the same kind of activities that her boyfriend and his group of friends have been accused of, if you know what I mean. But on the contrary, we don't have any proof that she hadn't been involved in those things either, so that's kind of a gray area right now. And since it's been a while that she has visited that club, it's pointless to have any blood tests conducted because she's obviously going to be clean. Thankfully, though, the motel staff have confirmed that they were regulars at that place for quite a few months, and every time that they would leave several empty packs of cigarettes and at least 2 to 3 empty bottles of wine behind, and from the brands it was obvious that these things were not your typical easy-to-get stuff. They were expensive and good. That's definitely not a good sign, especially when your son's tuition payments haven't been cleared. In spite of all of this, she has been doing her best to get custody and dragging everything out, but she hasn't stopped seeing her boyfriend, who is also under trial right now. It's just sad because she's screwing everything up for herself, and the most that she can do right now is delay the inevitable, but she can't avoid it. Personally, I just want this to end because it's turned into a bit of a nightmare since Jennifer and I had a really good relationship before all of this started, and I can't stand to see her do this to herself. I don't take any joy in watching her downfall or whatever. I just want this to be wrapped up quickly so I can try and give Anthony a normal life somehow because that's what this has been since the beginning. So that's all that I'm hoping for right now. Update 4. Hi, so a couple of days ago we finally had our last hearing, and in spite of all her attempts, Anthony was placed in my permanent custody, and she totally lost it. As soon as that verdict was announced, she started screaming at me publicly, accusing me of stealing her son from her on purpose just because I couldn't have kids of my own, and I didn't have a family or a husband. It was quite embarrassing, partly because that's not even true. I'm obviously capable of having kids. I just chose not to because marriage and kids were not my cup of tea, like I said in the beginning. It was even more embarrassing because this was happening in court, and she literally had to be dragged out after the verdict because she wouldn't stop screaming at me. I don't understand why she was so upset with me, especially considering the fact that she had brought this on herself. Besides, she will still continue to have supervised visitation rights, just like before. Now it's on her that she didn't utilize them before, and she did not change her ways even after she was told repeatedly that the court was not going to look kindly upon the fact that she was still seeing her boyfriend who has been convicted on all the charges against him just a week ago. By the way, this is his third offense, so it's obvious that she should have stopped seeing him a long time ago and should have fixed her behavior. But she didn't, so I really don't understand how I am the one to blame for any of this. But anyway, I know that she just wanted a scapegoat so she could continue to run away from her problems and pretend that she was totally innocent, and I was the villain. So be it. I don't really care anymore. All I know for a fact is that Anthony is going to be well taken care of now, and I really hope that someday in the future she realizes her mistakes and tries to fix her behavior because I wouldn't want her to lose her only son or for Anthony to lose his mother. I do want them to have a relationship, but for now, I think it's best that they stay apart. Anyway, he seems pretty happy with me, so I'm going to try to keep that up. I'm probably not going to be posting here as often anymore because I'm going to try and strike the right balance between raising Anthony and the life that I've been used to so far. It's going to be different, but again, I have to do what I have to do. I love the kid, and I hope I can do right by him. Now on to the next story. Story 8. I married my childhood sweetheart, but he cheated, so I found love again with a man who rarely said, "I love you," I am using a different account so that my husband doesn't know. Before meeting my current husband, I was married to my ex-husband, Dave. Dave and I met when we were 5 years old. He moved into our neighborhood when he was 5. He was this cute boy next door. We became inseparable. Even our parents joked that when we would be adults, we would be married. Ever since I knew the concept of marriage, I was determined that I would marry Dave. We were like soulmates. We had the same interests, the same hobbies, the similar thoughts. He was my first everything. My first kiss, my first boyfriend, the guy I lost my virginity to. Among our friends, we were the perfect couple. After graduating high school, we immediately got married. I got into a good school, but I decided to study with Dave. We got married right after we finished high school. Our parents helped us find an apartment closer to our school. We worked hard. We would often talk about having kids. On our 6th anniversary, we decided that we would try for a baby next year. I still remember the day when, as teenagers and cuddling, we already decided what our babies' names would be. During our 7th year of marriage, my mom got sick, so I had to stay with her for a while. I was planning to do something special for our 7th year anniversary, so I left early to surprise him. I went to my bedroom, and there I saw my husband sleeping with another girl in our marital bed. I can never get that image out of my head. My husband saw me and his face turned pale. I don't know what happened, but I threw up right on the spot. My husband was giving me the usual. It's not what it looks like. I am sorry. It was a mistake. I locked myself in the bathroom. I somehow mustered my strength and called my friend to pick me up and just not listen to Dave. When my friend arrived, she charged at Dave. She grabbed some of my things and we left. I was in a catatonic stage at that point. Eventually, my parents knew. They supported whatever decision I would make. Dave's parents, however, wanted us to be together. There was a huge fight, but eventually we settled for divorce. My whole fairy tale fantasy just shattered. I was spiraling into depression. My parents booked me for therapy for 2 years. I was like a living corpse. After that, my friend pushed me to go on a date. I did, but no one even came close to Dave. I was searching for Dave in every guy, but they all failed to live up to the expectation. That is when I met my now husband, Jay. Jay was the opposite of Dave. Dave was funny. He would be the life of the party. I remember one time he made me laugh so hard that I fell from my chair. But Jay was not funny like Dave. He would use humor only as clapbacks and if he wanted to insult someone. He was also very stoic and closed off, pretty boring to my taste. On our first date, I asked him some questions, like, "What is your favorite movie?" He told me he doesn't watch movies. He likes reading. He didn't even ask me a thing except for my educational background. He talked mostly about my field of work, but he was not interested in me. We ate dinner in silence. I was 100% sure he would not call me, but 2 days later he did. He asked me out on a second date. I was skeptical of whether or not I should go, but my friend insisted I give it another try. The second date went slightly better than the first. He talked a bit more, asked a few questions. We were taking it slow. He was opening up until the 6th date when we finally hooked up. TMI, it was amazing. I am someone who has a snack after having sex. I was craving for some, so I asked him if I could grab something from his pantry. Even a bread and cheese sandwich would do. He told me to stay there and he went out. I was kind of confused. He came back after 20 minutes with takeout food. It was something I really liked. Orange chicken. I asked how he knew. He told me, "You told me on our previous date." I melted right there. Dave and I had been together for most of my life, but he never made the effort of going out and getting me something. That's when I knew, even if he was not my soulmate, I was madly in love with him. We dated for 3 years and got married. I came to know about Jay's family too. His mom and dad were drug addicts who died of overdose. He was homeless for a while but worked his way up. Throughout our marriage, I was very, very happy. He was different from Dave because whenever he would see me doing chores, he would ask, "Need help?" He helped me through my trauma from Dave by arranging a therapist that specializes in infidelity. He may not be a person of words, but his actions tell me that he loves me. When I was pregnant with our daughter, I would wake him up in the middle of the night to either get me food or rub my feet. He would say, Yes, ma'am. And get to work. I love him. Even after 15 years of marriage, my love has not stopped. He is still the stoic man I fell in love with. After meeting him, I stopped believing in the concept of a soulmate. He was not mine, but we somehow make it work. I love you, Jay. Thanks for being there in my life. And anyone who is wondering what happened to Dave, he is getting his third divorce. His mom blames me for his downfall, but she refuses to see that her son cheated on his every marriage. More information from OP. From the outside, Jay and I don't look like your typical soulmates. Honestly, Dave and I seemed like the ideal couple, your typical girl next door and boy next door kind of people. Jay, on the other hand, was a bit more closed off, and when I first started dating him, I actually thought he was kind of rude. He has a temper, especially when it comes to people who mess things up. But beyond that, he's a genuinely kind person, especially to those who really need help. Despite his rough edges, there's a goodness in him that runs deep. Now, in terms of our relationship, well, it's been 18 years, and let's just say that the physical aspect is still alive and well. Jay's the kind of guy who keeps things spicy, and yes, even after all these years, he still surprises me with dessert after. Just the little things, you know. But of course, not everyone has been supportive of us. Especially not Dave's mom. She blames me for his downfall. Can you believe that? In her mind, if I had just stayed with him, maybe he wouldn't have become a serial cheater. She even tried to convince me to stay, knowing full well about his cheating, claiming I could have fixed him. It's absurd. She blames me for his marriage after me failing, saying he was a mess because of me, not because he was sleeping around behind their backs too. And as for Jay, I wouldn't call him my soulmate. He doesn't even believe in soulmates. When I asked him about it once, he told me he thought the idea was crap, like horoscopes, something people believe in because it makes them feel better. He even thinks that a lot of good relationships get ruined because people are chasing the idea of a perfect soulmate. I was a little devastated when he said that, but that's Jay, always practical. Can you believe in these 18 years we've only said, I love you, maybe 5 times? I've always wanted to say it more, but that's not really how we operate. Still, even without all the romantic fluff, there's something real between us, and that's enough for me. Date 1. My husband, 47M, and I, 46F, have been together for 18 years and married for 15. My husband is not the type who always shows his feelings. He is very stoic, smiles on very few occasions, and maintains a routine. Some even say that he is a robot, but I don't think so. I am someone who is very outgoing and completely the opposite of him. Before I was married to him, I was married to someone else who cheated on me. I used to say, I love you a lot in my first marriage, but after my divorce, I had some sort of aversion to those words. Over the last 18 years, we have said, I love you only 5 times. The first time was when we were dating. The second was on our wedding day. The third and fourth were when our daughter and son were born. The fifth was 5 years ago on Christmas when we were really tipsy because of the drinks. I wrote a post about how I met him and how we got together, but it made me realize that we haven't said, I love you to each other for a long time. But it didn't bother me. Even if he never said it, he always shows that he loves me in his actions. He does chores for me, he would always give me a foot massage, make me my favorite dish, even kiss me out of the blue. I do not have any complaints. He is the best husband anyone could ever ask for. But this was something that has been in the back of my mind for a while. We cuddle, we hang out, we make love, but still no I love yous. I would love to hear it and say it more often, but somehow it just makes me nervous. I decided to buckle up and just say it. It's just 3 words. So yesterday, when he was reading a book on the couch, I stood in front of him and said, I love you. He looked at me and was confused. I repeated it. For the first time, I could see him get flustered. He told me, okay. I was a little disappointed by his response. I thought he just didn't love me anymore. Later that night, when I was lying down, he came to our bedroom and told me that he is sorry for his response, that it caught him off guard. He told me that he loves me a lot and not even a day goes by he doesn't feel lucky to have me in his life. I was staring. That was better than my confession. I asked him, why don't we say that often? He told me that he doesn't say it because throughout his entire life, no one has said it to him except for me. His parents were drug addicts who cared less for him. He had to start working since 14. He grew up in hardship, so saying, "I love yous" are weird for him. But also he feels like we didn't have to tell each other when we express it with our actions way more. I told him I want to say it more now and want him to say it back if that's okay with him. I saw him smile for a while. He said it is fine as long as I want it. I don't think we need to say when we know we love each other a lot. We will probably stop saying it after a few days and go back to our mundane events. Update 2. A lot of you people have been asking me and personally messaging me about Jay's upbringing and how he managed to survive. Well, I am not sure if I am the right person to talk about his personal life. I mean, I heard some parts which really made me cry. Therefore, I will try to summarize it. So, my husband Jay is an only child. His mom and dad were from a poor family. They were drug addicts. His household was a mess. He remembers his father pushing him down the stairs when he was like 8. Jay mostly grew up with his grandfather, his mom's dad. As far as I know, his mom was not allowed to come to his grandfather's house. Jay mostly spent his weekdays at his grandfather's house. His mom and dad didn't care. They were always high and had odd visitors. His grandfather taught him a lot of things like handling tools, woodwork, electric repair stuff, ever since he was little. With some advice from his grandfather, he learned that his parents are very useless. He has to survive on his own. All they know is how to do drugs and invite people for having group sex. He started doing odd jobs like dog sitting, car and window washing, gardening. He also tutored from time to time. Shortly after his parents died of overdose, he became a permanent resident of his grandfather's house. He worked so that he could afford to go to college. His grandfather had little money for him, but it wasn't enough. He thought about joining the army at 18, but he failed the physical test. When he was 17, his grandfather died of a heart attack. His grandfather lived in a rented house, so Jay couldn't live there anymore. He was forced to live in a homeless shelter. Throughout his high school, he even got bullied and got in trouble for standing up for his bullies, but since he was a good student, he didn't face serious repercussion. He left the homeless shelter when a pastor from their local church took him in. He knew Jay because he worked in the church for a while. The pastor was a nice guy. He funded his living and also helped him get a scholarship to a good university. Jay studied finance and business. His entire childhood he lived in poverty, so he was obsessed with learning how to make money. He made some connections which landed him a good part-time job during his final year. I met Jay through my friend. She worked in the same company as him. He worked as an investment banker at that time, and the rest you all know. This is pretty much it. I understand why he is so stoic and doesn't show his emotions. I once asked out of curiosity that he saw the harsh reality of life, but still, how does he manage to stay good? He once told me about this couple whose children he used to tutor. They were a really happy family in his eyes. The husband loved his wife. He mentioned that the husband would always have a hand on his wife's body as a form of affection. Their children were also well-behaved and had a good childhood. From that moment, he knew he wanted a family like that because he never had a complete family. But he was sure that somebody would not be able to love him because he doesn't know how to show love. Throughout his entire childhood, he has only seen his parents fight and cheat on each other in front of each other. That really destroyed his perception of love. If it wasn't for that couple, he probably wouldn't believe that there are people in this world who can love each other for life. It is a little wrong of me to say he displays no emotions. He does, but on rare occasions. I remember the day our daughter was born. Jay held her and cried loudly. He kept repeating, "I will protect you. I never leave you." He did say, "I love you" to both me and her. The same thing happened when our son was born. I mean, it gave me an idea to just pop out a baby so that I can see his emotional face, huh? But anyways, I know he does love me and our little family. He always holds me tight whenever we are cuddling. He is really good with my parents. My parents also adore him. Sometimes it just makes me cry knowing that he has been through a lot and I have lived such a sheltered life. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve him because he is very kind and a good person. Also, yeah, we do say I love you a lot more now. Update 3. I just wanted to give big thanks to everyone who has been kind and supportive. I cannot imagine that so many people will come through because of my post. A lot of you suggested therapy. TBH, I did in the past, But my husband brushed it off by saying his past rarely bothers him. Thanks to people, I suggested him some articles on PTSD and childhood trauma. He studied for a bit and found a therapist for him to help him with his trauma. He only had 2 sessions till now. A few days ago, he came home from work, and I went to greet him like usual. He pulled me in for a big hug and started sobbing. I told him, "It's okay." We went to our bedroom where we sat down and talked. He told me that he was sorry for being so ice-cold all these years. He opened up more and said he was afraid to confront his demons, so he just kept them back in his head. He had trouble expressing how he felt. He felt guilty that he didn't say, "I love you," more often. I am just paraphrasing what he told me. "I love you with all my heart. I know I don't say it, but I feel it every day and every moment. I am sorry for taking away all those years from you, for not expressing my love for you. Words cannot express what you actually mean to me. You gave me my kids, made my house a home. I never had that growing up. I always wanted that, and you made it happen. I am sorry that I was so cold and never said, 'I love you,' more, because I do. I love you a lot. I want to make it up to you. I don't want to waste another second of my life burying those emotions anymore." It feels good to see him vulnerable. First time in his life, I cried with him that night. We talked a lot about our marriage and the times we spent. It was a real bonding experience. From that day on, he has been really attentive towards me. He would always come home as early as possible to simply have more time with me. We cuddle a lot and also make love. Except this time it feels new and different, like a newfound love. He has been saying, "I love you," to my kids. My son is confused, and my daughter just said, "Dad, you are weird." He is thinking about planning a trip for just 2 of us because it has been really long since we had went on a trip alone. So thanks, folks. You gave me a new version of my husband and probably strengthened my marriage with him. Not that there were problems, but I hope my husband would not be so haunted by his demons now. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Husband shared a hotel room with a younger, single woman on his bowling trip. He didn't tell me until I found out by accident. Could he have cheated? My 36F husband, 42M, is currently in Las Vegas for a national bowling tournament. He is there with his mom and her friends/folks from their bowling league. He is an avid bowler, bowls in a Tuesday night league, often in state tournaments and sometimes in national tournaments. Typically, I go with and sometimes bowl myself. This year we decided I would not go, but stay home with our 3 boys, ages 4, 8, and 10, due to heat and smoke in Vegas in July. My husband and I have been married for 11 years. This is his second marriage. His first marriage failed because he walked in on his wife cheating on him with another man. I have never, not once, thought that he would ever be intimate with another woman while he was with me. He's just not that type. So on to this trip. Typically, when he goes on a trip without me, at least one a year, given my job and time off requirements, he stays in a hotel room with his mom or our boys. 3 nights ago, I was on FaceTime with him while he was in his hotel room. It was really nice, and he was talking about possibly taking a nap for lack of sleep. I asked if he had his room to himself because that would have been awesome, and he said, "Oh no, she is sharing with me." I asked him who that was, and he said something I don't remember, aside from she. I said, "Wait, what?" And then he went on to explain that he was supposed to share the room with his mom's boyfriend. But plans changed, and now he is sharing the room with another woman on the trip. He told me that I played cornhole with her last month at a get-together. I reminded him who I had played cornhole with, him and a girl, but not one with the name he was giving me. I have no idea who this woman is, at which point he got very confused. He did not understand why I was upset or frustrated. So, I dropped it because I did not want to deter from his time and his bowling. I know I should have asked how he would have felt if the roles were reversed, but I didn't, partly because I didn't want to fight, we hardly ever fight while the kids were up, and partly because I didn't want to hear him chalk it up to my imagination. I have hardly slept since that night, and my dreams have been chock full of worst-case scenarios, and still I have not really brought it up again. There have been a few occasions in which he has talked about taking naps and how lame he is in Vegas. I have mentioned a few times, sort of sarcastically as an aside, that he would be having more fun if he were sharing a room with me, or if I was there instead of his present company. But he has brushed it all aside. So here we are. He has spent the last 3 nights in a hotel room with a woman that is not me or his mother. Edited to get rid of some names. Husband is coming home tonight and we will talk. I'm hoping it's 82-year-old grandma. Smile. Update 1. Okay, so I took some advice and grew a backbone. I texted him a little while ago instead of waiting until he got home. He and our boys are leaving for another trip tomorrow morning. I could not get the time off of work, so I wanted to make sure we had the conversation fully before he left again. Before I give the update, I wanted to make a couple of things clear. I do trust my husband. He has never shown he would be the kind of person to cheat, and that is not what truly concerned me, even though I did have some pretty unpleasant dreams. My issue was that he was not upfront and honest with me. If I had done the same thing, he would have lost his mind, understandably. This is why I started the original post with, "He's just not that type." We do generally have great communication. The issue here is that I like to have this kind of conversation face-to-face rather than over the phone. It's just not something I like to hash out while we are not in the same space. Obviously, in this situation, I should have made the exception and have now done so. Now for the update. I texted him today to tell him that this situation has been bothering me for the last 3 days. I had questions and we needed to have this conversation. I asked who the woman was, how old she was, and why didn't he tell me about the situation before I found out by accident. There was a mix-up with the rooms. Something about someone not going, so people were shuffled. He was paired with a woman about my age. He said he didn't think it would be a big deal and didn't want to inconvenience everyone else on the trip. He also said he did not want to upset me, which is why he didn't outright tell me about it. He did tell me that I never had anything to worry about, and he made sure they weren't in the room alone together, aside from when they were sleeping. I know, but I really do believe him on this. I was honest with him and told him that if roles were reversed out of respect for him, I would have called him right away to make sure he was okay with it. I told him that while I trust him implicitly, I should not have found out the way that I did, and he should not have blown off my concern. I told him that the lack of upfront communication felt suspicious, regardless of intention or what actually happened. As for not upsetting me, I told him I would have understood and not been upset if he had just been honest. He has apologized profusely. I told him next time to just communicate. He is adamant there will not be a next time. So, call me naive if you want, but I am dropping it at this point. He will be home this evening and I intend on having a nice evening with him before I don't see him again for another 2 weeks. Thank you for the advice. I cried it out when I found out her age, but getting this off my chest has been very relieving. Update 2, July 25th, 2024. I am not handling this as well as I thought I was. I had decided to let it go. I know he wasn't doing anything with this other woman. You can disagree and call me crazy if you'd like, but I do know that. However, as much as I have tried, I can't get past the fact that he made the decision to do something he knew I wouldn't be okay with and not tell me about it. It all feels just so messed up. I have talked to a few of my coworkers. I don't have really any friends that aren't friends of his that I talk to on a regular basis, and there is no way I will talk to my family because that is a shitstorm I can't handle right now. And they are all shocked and more angry for me than I have let myself be. Most of them know him, the kind of person he is, and what ended his first marriage. He used to work at the same company. We had less than 24 hours together before he, his mom, and all 3 of my children took their trip to the other side of the United States. I've been stewing in my feelings and will continue to do so until they get back, almost another week from now. I was on the phone with them this evening before they went to bed, and one of the first things my husband said to me was, "I'm sharing a bed with a redhead tonight," and I almost came unglued before I realized he was talking about one of our boys. We have 3 sons. After a very long pause, I said, "You better be talking about Dash." And I was so angry. I don't understand how he didn't pick up on that. Every conversation we have had has been short and to the point because I'm really just not interested in talking to him. I've been calling my oldest son and talking with my boys instead. His mom hasn't really said much to me, which makes me think he has said something to her, which is fine, of course. I really don't care about that. Bottom line is I don't know what to do. It is midnight at home. I tried to go to bed 2 hours ago and just could not stop sobbing. So I got up and let it go. It felt good to get it out. But I know I need to talk to someone. I have support lines through work I can call, but won't tonight, far too many drinks and I don't want to bring that into it as well. But I will call tomorrow. I know I should be upset and angry and not let it go. But I am afraid when I do talk to a professional they will say I'm blowing it out of proportion. I will still call, but I need to get my head straight first. He is bicycling for 7 days over 400 miles, so as much as I want to tear him a new one right now, especially after his completely insensitive and clueless joke this evening, I have not. Because I want him home safe and sound regardless of my feelings in this moment. The most important thing is that my children's dad comes home safe so we can hash this out at least in the same city and not while he is 1,000 miles away with his mom and my children. Update 3, August 8, 2024. I am sorry it has been a bit since I have updated. Things have been a lot. I am also sorry this post is very, very long. My family came home a day early, so I took 2 extra days off of work to see them and figure things out with my husband. After we had unloaded and put everything away, we had dinner and watched a show. After putting the boys to bed, my husband and I went to our room. It was pretty clear he thought he was going to get lucky because he was very confused when I turned the light on. I told him that I had questions and I needed him to answer them. He was hesitant but agreed. I asked him, "Who is this woman? How old? And is she married?" I still don't know who she is, but he did confirm she is younger than me and not married. I then asked who made the decision he would be sharing a room with her. He said that his mom said it would be really great if they shared so she could spend the 3 nights with her boyfriend/not boyfriend. I asked him why he didn't tell me about it. He said he was just so tired and it had such a long day, he didn't think about it, conflicting with his earlier, "I didn't want to upset you." He said that he didn't think I would ever question his intentions, so why would he think he would have to tell me? I told him it wasn't about questioning his intentions or fidelity, it's that what they did was completely inappropriate and disrespectful to me and our marriage, and at the absolute very least, he should have sent me a quick text explaining the situation. I also told him that his mom is not always right. He apologized profusely, said he shouldn't have put his mom before me. He didn't think it would be a thing because he would never try to hurt me and he thought I knew that. All the things. And we honestly talked it out and worked through things for a solid few hours. We came to a really good place and connected for the first time in a long while. Then he went to work the next day, which hurt because I didn't really have the time to be calling in. I am severely behind at work, but I did anyway because I wanted to do the right thing for us and to take care of us. But because he just spent 2 weeks going all over the country doing something super fun and now he is super behind in his job, he couldn't afford to take any more time off. So that really hurt. But I let it go because he really was behind and I at least had the boys that I got to catch up with that day. My mom called to see what we were doing for my birthday, which was 2 days away. I had honestly forgotten about it with everything, so I told her I didn't know and asked if my husband had called her. She said he had not. So I told her I would let her know when we came up with a plan. That night I asked him if he had a plan and he said, "Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do?" And that really, really hurt. But I let it go because we have had so much going on. I told him it would be great if we had a barbecue and he invited people and got the groceries. And he agreed. I specifically asked if he would call my mom. He did get some of the groceries, but not all of them, and he did surprise me with a cake. But that was it. I ended up inviting everyone last minute, having to apologize along the way, and had to go to the store twice to get the rest of the things we needed. At the party, he started showing our friends the pictures from his trip. Pictures I haven't even seen yet. I was so mad, upset, frustrated. He didn't catch on. So then it came time for gifts. His was a card game and a back rub. I felt like I was just slapped in the face. To be clear, I don't place a high value on gifts. If you get me something, great. If you don't, that's fine. But he didn't get me anything for Mother's Day, but I got him a whole slew of things for Father's Day, for his trip, and an Xbox game he wanted. I also planned each of those days by myself, and he just went to the other side of the country, and all he thought to grab for me was a card game. I didn't want to fight in front of our friends, so I let it be. I didn't really expect more than that anyway. But it still hurt. Then I went back to work and things were messy. Anything he did irritated me. Anything his mom did irritated me. I was getting so frustrated and sad and angry and just not myself. Then I had a medical issue, something that pokes its little head back up every 5 years like clockwork. But I had been ignoring because of everything going on. Come back. and I went to our urgent care to take care of it, but I had to take care of all sorts of things first so that me going to the doctor didn't hamper my husband's day. So I was really irritated in the morning. It didn't help that his mom came over and I just can't handle her right now. It also didn't help that he told me that morning about all the plans he had come up with for our son's birthday in a few weeks. I was mad at myself for being upset. I should be stoked my husband is thinking about our son and wanting to give him a great birthday party. But I was so deflated and sad and angry in that moment. But he had to go to work, so I left it alone. So, before I went, I sent him a text apologizing for being irritated. I told him that I'm not in a good place mentally or physically and I'm really struggling. He asked how he could help and I responded that I really didn't know. And then I saw the doctor and he referred me to surgery. This will be the third time I have had surgery for this. I was so frustrated and sad and hurt. I decided to just put it all out there, and since he can't seem to find the time to actually talk to me, I texted him a novel laying out everything that is on my mind. The trip, my birthday, him not taking time, my son's birthday, all of it. After an hour he had not responded, so I sent him another text saying that maybe he could just tell me I'm not crazy and we will get through this together or something like that at least. He responded to that saying that he loves me and has lots to say but can't say it over the phone. So then I went to work and did the things. I felt a little better. He didn't discredit all of my frustration, so things were okay. That night he called to tell me he loved me and was going to take the next day off to spend with me. It was also my day off. I was pretty darn stoked. The next day I asked him what were the things he wanted to say and he said he didn't want to say it in front of the kids. So then that night I asked him again and he said that we have been having such a great day, he didn't want to ruin it and me get all emotional, so he wasn't going to say it. Then I felt like I had just been punched in the gut. So wait, you have been so nice since I texted you, but now I'm going to be sad and upset? What is going on? It is now the next day and I just asked him again. He completely blew me off and went to town to pick up our son from camp. I am at a loss. I don't know what to do. I can only ask him to talk to me so many times. He doesn't share his thoughts or emotions often, but I would think he would do it now, right? I don't know what to do. Now for some comments. Comment 1. Holy shit, you're not even an afterthought to this guy. You don't have any importance in his life, you're just there. He'll just tell you stuff to get you off his case and then just keep ignoring you. OP. That is definitely how I feel. OP responds to multiple comments on seeking for a professional counselor to help navigate the next steps and find a thing to do that helps OP feel happy. OP. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your kind and understanding reply. I have made a few calls with no responses yet, and quite a few say they are not taking new clients. Keeping my fingers crossed though. I do agree I need an outside perspective other than Reddit. Thank you. I've used our system, but I still have to call. They helped narrow down, but I have to make an appointment. I get 6 free sessions, which is great, I just need someone to call me back. Thank you for the advice, I will try. I did get in 2 chapters of the book I'm reading this week and I've taken extra time with my boys. I needed that. Comment 1. I think that woman on the trip was more important than he's letting on. His mother would not be welcome in my house again until she apologizes to my face. No more trips alone for any reason for a very long time. He needs to have consequences and you're letting him coast. He's trying to wait you out. Update me. Comment 2. I don't know why you just keep letting things go and deluding yourself that you're in a good place. Your husband was in a hotel room with a younger woman for days. He gaslit you that it's no big deal and acting like you're the crazy one for thinking it's a problem. In what world are things okay after that? How much of a doormat has he made you that one conversation blows that over? Your MIL set him up to cheat on you. In no world is him sharing a room with a younger, single woman appropriate. He knows that, she knows that. If you think he's a good boy, I don't know what kind of blinders you have on or Kool-Aid you're drinking, but stop. He blew off your birthday. He couldn't even muster going to the grocery store, let alone sending some texts. He was away from you for 2 weeks and couldn't even bring you some postcards from along the way. My son was on a school trip for 4 days. He brought me all kinds of little things because he was in a gas station and saw this pretty postcard I would like, or at this gift shop and thought that keychain was something I would like. So your husband is less considerate than a teenager on a school trip with all his teenage buddies. He gives you shit after shit and just pretends things are fine. You lay it all out there via text, and again he blows you off, gives you some love bombing in the form of family time, and expects to sweep it under the rug. He's hoping to wake you out before you find out what he actually did in that hotel room, or how many times he's met the woman before, or just to make sure he can feed you shit after betraying your marriage with his mom's help, and you'll just ignore it. At some point you have to acknowledge you have a shitty husband and a very unhealthy marriage. How many ways does he have to show you you're not a priority, he doesn't respect you, and he could not care less about your feelings before you believe him? Update 4, August 19th, 2024. I apologize for the late update. My health took a pretty drastic turn for the worst for a minute, but no worries, all is good now. And I had a really good talk with my doctor about putting myself first, and she is getting me in touch with a counselor. Now for the update. It's barely an update, and for that I'm sorry. When I finally did get him to tell me what he wanted to say, he ended up saying it in front of the boys anyway. He only brought up 2 things I had talked about in the novel I had sent him. The first was that I was going to look for a counselor. He said he loved that idea and that it really helped him when he was talking to one. Then he brought up that I had mentioned how much weight I have gained since the birth of our last child. He said that he still finds me crazy attractive, as should be evident by the fact that he still shows up in bed. Then he started talking about what I shouldn't be doing if I wanted to lose weight, and apologizing for the fact that he and the boys have ridiculous metabolisms and don't have to worry about it. I asked him to stop trying to give me weight loss advice. That wasn't the point of me telling him. I asked if there was anything else he wanted to say, and he said no, just those 2 things. So at this point, this is where I am at. My husband did not cheat on me. I do know this is true. I am still not in a good place because of so many things happening at once. So I'm seeking help. Thanks for the advice and support for most of you, but this is my last post on this. I won't be able to actually work on my marriage reading some of these responses. Now for some comments. Comment 1, wow. Well, it is your life, not anyone else's. His idea of treating you with love and respect and honor and make up for his many missteps is to try and make you less fat. But don't worry, he still wants to EF you as is. I really hope for the best for you. Like most following your story, I think he treats you like shit, and beyond taking you for granted, he won't change because he feels he isn't behaving wrong. You deserve a better, happier life. I'm so sorry. Comment 2. Should be evident by the fact that he still shows up in bed, is a wild statement to me. Now on to the next story. Story 10. I planned my wedding for a year at a venue that doesn't allow pets. My sis needs her service dog for anxiety, but I said no. My 27th wedding is coming up in a few months, and it's supposed to be a big, elegant affair. My fiancé, 29M, and I have been planning it for over a year, and we've spared no expense. The venue we chose is stunning but also very strict on rules, particularly regarding pets due to its historical nature. They've made it clear that no animals are allowed on the property except for legitimate service animals. Here's where the issue comes in. My sister, 25F, has severe anxiety and a psychiatric service dog, a golden retriever named Max, who helps her with panic attacks and other symptoms. Max is highly trained and well-behaved, but he's still a dog, and the venue isn't willing to make any exceptions. When my sister found out about the no-dog policy, she was upset and assumed I would make a case to the venue for her and Max. The thing is, I've been waiting for this day my whole life, and I don't want anything to go wrong. I'm worried that even though Max is a service dog, he could still cause some sort of issue or be a distraction. Also, I don't want to start a fight with the venue that could risk our deposit or the entire booking. So I told her that while I would love to have her at the wedding, I can't have Max there. I offered to arrange transportation and a pet sitter for Max nearby so she could check on him whenever she wanted. But she said that wouldn't work because she needs him with her at all times. She then said that if Max couldn't come, she wouldn't be able to attend, and now she's not speaking to me. My parents are furious and think I'm being heartless. They said I should be willing to do anything to have my sister there on my special day. Some of my friends agree, while others think my sister is being unreasonable for putting me in this position. Additional info that OP provides. As for the situation with the dog, I know some people think I'm being unreasonable or selfish, but let me explain this in more detail. The venue actually does allow dogs, but that's not the main issue here for me. It's about ensuring that everything on my wedding day is perfect and free from unnecessary stress or distractions. I've invested so much time, energy, and money into planning this event, and the last thing I want is anything, even something as small as a dog, throwing things off. I don't want to spend my special day worrying about anything else. If that makes me the bad guy in some people's eyes, then so be it. At the end of the day, I just want things to go smoothly, and yes, I've heard people say that if I don't bend on this, some of my family might not even show up. Honestly, if that happens, it's just fewer people for me to worry about. I'm not catering to everyone else's needs and opinions on my wedding day. This is about me and my future. If someone feels so strongly about not coming just because of a request I've made for my own peace of mind, then maybe they don't need to be there in the first place. It's not like I'm going to lose sleep over it. I'm focused on what matters, and nothing is going to ruin that for me. Update, August 13th, 2024. Wow, I didn't expect my original post to get as much like it did. I've gotten a lot of feedback, some of it helpful, most of it just, well, let's just say it wasn't what I was hoping for. But since so many people are invested in this situation, I figured I'd give an update. First off, yes, I was pretty harsh in my responses to some of the comments. I won't apologize for defending myself, but I do realize that I might have come off more aggressively than I intended. Planning a wedding is stressful, and I let that get the better of me. However, that doesn't change how I feel about the situation with my sister and her service dog. After thinking it over and talking with my fiancé, we've decided to stick with our original plan. My sister has been informed that if she wants to attend the wedding, she needs to do so without the dog. It wasn't an easy conversation, and as expected, she wasn't happy about it. My parents are upset, and a few family members have even threatened to boycott the wedding, but honestly, I'm okay with that. It's our day, and we've made a decision that we believe is best for us. I understand that a lot of people think I'm being unreasonable or selfish, but at the end of the day, this is my wedding. I'm not going to let anyone else dictate how it should go. If that means some people don't show up or that others think I'm a bridezilla, then so be it. I'd rather have a smaller, more comfortable event than one where I'm stressed out and worrying about things going wrong. To those who were supportive and offered constructive advice, thank you. And to everyone else who thinks I'm a terrible person, well, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.